Tina Smoot is suing ex-boyfriend John Bambino for a loan she made him while he was between jobs. John claims Tina manipulated him with her money.
All rise.
This is case number 515 on the calendar in the matter of Smoot versus Bambino. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Smoot, you and the defendant were dating, according to your complaint, and you loaned him some money.
Yes.
Mr. Bambino acknowledges that you gave him money, but he said it was just that. It was a gift. There was no indication when you gave him this money that you expected repayment of the money. You were sort of helping him out at a time that he needed to be helped out financially. He's counterclaiming because he says that in a fit of rage, you damaged his car, his clothes, and he also believes that you harassed him. That's his counterclaim. So tell me when you met him.
I met him in August of last year.
And when did you lend him the money?
In December of last year.
Tell me about it.
John had lost his job and he couldn't pay his rent.
When did he lose the job?
November.
What kind of job did you have, Mr. Bambino?
Car salesman, ma'am.
How long did you have that job with that company?
7 months.
Before that, where did you work?
Correction officer for the state of New Jersey.
How long were you working there?
15 years.
Go ahead.
In December, I was coming into some money through a lawsuit, and I had extra money, and, you know, he asked me to lend him his rent money for the month of December, and that's what it was. I lent him the money.
How much was it?
It was $1,200.
$1,200 for rent. Go ahead.
And one bill is $452.07.
What was that for?
A home entertainment system.
Who bought a home entertainment
that
system?
I bought for him, that he was supposed to pay me back for.
No. Miss Smoot, listen to me carefully. If somebody doesn't have money to pay his own rent, then you don't buy him a home entertainment center and expect him to pay you back. You're not a baby, right?
Right, Your Honor.
What else?
Cable bill, $100. I have a check that he wrote, that I gave him a blank check to take to the doctors that has his name in the memo for $80.
Did she give you a blank check to pay a doctor?
Yes, ma'am.
What else?
A gas bill for $100 in December.
$100 even?
Well, it was, his gas bill is way more than that, but I only paid $100 on it.
Go ahead.
2 checks for food, one for $87.40 and one for $42.71.
Made out to whom?
To Acme.
Did you use those 2 checks?
No, I wrote them.
He doesn't know you for that.
Okay.
What else?
That's it.
Okay, Mr. Bambino. Ball is in your court, sir. Where are you working now?
Chevrolet 73.
So you're back to work?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So Ms. Smoot says that you said, if you pay my rent, as soon as I get a job, I'll pay you back. You say that's not true. Tell me what happened, Mr. Bambino. By the way, how old are you, sir?
43.
Have you been married?
Yes, ma'am.
You have children?
I have 2 daughters.
How old are they?
17 and 24.
When did you last live with them?
I have custody of my younger. Actually, I've had custody of both since my divorce in '98. I have custody of my youngest now.
So how are you supporting the children?
My mother helps me out, but I mean, I just ran into a tough time between, like, let's say the Monday before Thanksgiving, and I started my new job January 5th.
Right.
So it was approximately 6 weeks.
So what you're telling me is your mother helps you out.
She helped me out in that particular time frame, yes, in the beginning of January.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
I met Tina, as she said, in the middle of August. We started the date.
Would you try looking at me rather than keeping your eyes closed? It's disrespectful.
I'm sorry. I met her in the middle of August at a club over in Philadelphia. Approximately 2 weeks later, she accused me of staring at a woman on the track. She told me to get in her Jeep. She started to give me a ride, which was the ride from hell. She just started driving down the interstate, doing approximately 70, 75 miles an hour, weaving in and out of traffic.
But after that, you took money from her.
No. Well, ma'am, it's...
Listen to me. After that, you took money from her, so I'm not interested in a ride.
I didn't take money.
Yes, you did.
She gave me the money, ma'am.
That's not what I said. I said you took money from her.
Yes.
After the ride from hell, which would have put me in a different county from somebody like that, you took money from her.
Yes.
Right. Did you think that the story you were going to tell me was going to make you a sympathetic character?
Not at all.
Good. Let's get to the money. Come on.
Oh, well, after several pretty bizarre things that Tina pulled between September and December, I tried cutting off the relationship several times. Tina's texts me 15, 20 times a day, calls me, begs me to let her back into our relationship, start our relationship over.
Is this your child?
No, ma'am. She's a witness in this factor. Tina, I let back in approximately 7, 8 times between September 1st all the way up to the February 11th. She just constantly says I'm cheating on her.
You want to know something? You want to tell the sad story? Go on Dr. Phil. Right. To me, I want to know. To me, I want to know about the money.
The money. Tina would manipulate things and try to get me to let her back in. And after 3 or 4 weeks of constant texting me every day and please begging me to let her come back and start the relationship over, I did it several times. Tina.
Bambino, listen to me carefully. Get to the money.
I am.
In December, she may be desperate and she may find something about you attractive. Mr. Bambino, I do not.
I know that.
You are 43 years old. You look every day of it.
I know.
And then some. And Mr. Bambino, and then some. I have children who are 43 years old, sir. That's not you. That's the first thing. Second thing is, let's get to the money in December. Excuse me, you date him? No. Perfect. Get to the money.
All right, I let Tina come back over in early December. She laid $1,200 on my couch and said, pay your bills with this. I don't care when you give it back to me, just pay your bills. She insisted. I did pay. I paid my rent with it, of course. The other things, the utilities, she paid $100 for the heating bill.
Mr. Bambino, how do you think Miss Smoot knew that you didn't pay your utility bills and that you didn't pay your rent? How do you think?
By communicating
By you telling
me.
her. Mm-hmm. And it was that kind of casual conversation that inspired her to leave the $1,200 on the table for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah. And it was at that time that you were concerned about her bizarre behavior that she exhibited 6 or 7 times.
Over that 6-month frame, yes.
Now, you were a corrections officer for 15 years, sir. You knew that there were certain prisoners that were dangerous,
Sure.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you were dealing with a dangerous prisoner, there were certain protocols. You made sure that you didn't put yourself in harm's way. That was your training, right?
Absolutely.
So here you're dealing with a lunatic, somebody who over the course of 6 or 7 months is doing crazy, bizarre things. So instead of cutting it off, you know where the courthouse is. So if you know if somebody is stalking you, somebody is annoying you, you go to the courthouse and you say, this person is stalking me, annoying me, I need a protective order. Instead, you had somebody stalking you, you took their money. No. You took their money. I didn't say loan, I didn't say gift, I said you took their money. Well, you did. You just told me that, Mr. Bambino. You told me she was stalking you, harassing you, doing all kinds of bizarre things, and she put $1,200 down on the table, and she paid your bills, and you took it. That's what you just told me.
Judge Judy continued, claims ex-boyfriend John Bambino owes for a loan to help with his living expenses. John is countersuing for harassment and claims Tina intentionally damaged his property.
Okay. Now, it is your claim, Mr. Bambino, your counterclaim, that the plaintiff damaged your property, harassed you, and damaged your clothing. You want to tell me when that happened and where?
First week in November, Tina was going to North Carolina for a wedding.
And when did she give you the money, sir?
December.
On a sympathy scale, sir, of 1 to 10, this is about going to be a -5, because what you're going to tell me is that she, again, acted like a nut, but you took money from her the next month, right?
Yes.
Keep going.
She told me she would let me borrow her Jeep. I dropped off my friend's automobile that I was using at the time, which was a female friend of mine for 18 years. Tina, in the process, went in the glove box and found out who the car belonged to. She took a pen and ripped the whole roof of the inside of the car, ripped the leather on the seats, took a soda and threw it all over my clothes in the back. That's the incident in November.
Why did you do that, Tina?
I didn't go to that extreme.
What did you... Tina.
What happened?
Why did you do it?
I didn't do that, Your Honor.
Yes, you did. You did some of it.
I called him and told him to bring my Jeep.
What did you do to the stuff in the car?
I poured soda on his clothes, that was all.
You poured soda on his clothes. Is there a police report with regard to the damage to this friend's car?
No, ma'am, but I have pictures.
It's not your car.
It's not my car.
Did you fix the car?
Not yet.
Then you're not the person who can file this claim against Miss Smoot. That would be the car owner.
Yes, ma'am.
And as far as throwing soda on your clothes,
So what?
you owe her $1,480. You have to be a nice man, Mr. Bambino.
I'm a very nice man.
No, you're not. If she's a nut, you're not supposed to take advantage of people who are not balanced. If you actually believe that Miss Smoot is not balanced, then what you're supposed to do is not be a cad and take advantage of her financially. You're supposed to say, I don't want your money. I don't want it as a gift. I don't want it as a loan. I don't want you in my life. I don't want that at all because I don't think you're balanced. I think that you should take this money and use it well by going to see a doctor who will maybe give you some medication to help you feel better. Instead, what you did is you took advantage of her because you're not a nice person. Nice people don't take advantage of sick people. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,480. Your counterclaims dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was all a big joke to him anyhow.
That's totally not the case. It's totally not the case.
She thinks that something's going on between us. We're just co-workers. She's a little insane. She needs some medicine.
That's what she thinks.
I feel bad because she's not a bad person. She's got 2 beautiful daughters.
First of all, I don't have 2 daughters. I have a daughter and a son.
I'm not going to date women ever again.
I will never let anybody take advantage of me again.
I'm going to do a background check and, do what I got to do.
Mother of her grandchildren, Jacqueline Snowden, for the return of money she paid for a Pontiac Sunfire. Joan says Jacqueline refuses to give her the vehicle.
Order. All rise. Judge, parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Ledbetter, according to your complaint, the defendant is the former girlfriend of your son.
Correct.
They have 2 children together, although they are not married. It is your claim that you purchased a car from her and paid for it. She didn't deliver the car to you, and you want your money back.
Correct.
The defendant says that you never purchased a car from her, that you gave her some money to buy the children Christmas presents because she didn't have any money, and you're their grandmother and you wanted them to have a nice Christmas. So I need some background information. When did you allegedly purchase this car?
The checks were written on the 9th day of December.
December 9th, 2006.
Correct.
And where was Miss Snowden living in December of 2006?
I believe at that time she had already moved out of my home and was living back at her house.
Is that correct?
Which is at her parents'.
No, that is not correct.
When did you move out of the plaintiff's house back into your parents' house?
It was more towards the end of December.
Okay. And while she was living with your son at your house, how many cars did they have?
She had the Pontiac Sunbird, which is the one that...
So he did not own a car, so the only car that she had was the Sunbird.
Correct.
Did Miss Snowden work while she was living at your house?
Yeah, she worked at...
Oh, fine. Where were you working?
The first time I was working at Tumbleweed for over a year, and then...
Tumbleweed is what?
It's a restaurant.
What were you doing?
I was a cashier.
And who watched the children when you were working?
My mother did.
In December of 2006, where were you working?
Pebbles.
How many days a week?
It depends, sometimes 5, sometimes 6.
And how would you get to work?
My vehicle.
The Sunbird?
The Sunfire. It's a Sunfire.
Sunfire. And what was your boyfriend doing at that time?
He was unemployed.
For how much of the year previous in 2006 was he unemployed?
Most of the year. Ever since our first child was born, even when I was dating him before the children was born, he hasn't had a job.
Why not?
Because his mother helps him out.
Why wasn't he working?
Because I've enabled him, because
okay,
both
that's
of them
enough.
have... Okay.
Don't say anymore.
Okay.
So she was the one who was working?
Yes.
And what would he do all day?
I don't know. I was working also. So what he was doing...
Well, the children
sure,
were being taken care of by her mother.
Correct.
While she was working.
Correct.
Your son wasn't working.
Correct.
So why wasn't he taking care of his children?
I don't know. He didn't want to. He didn't have the patience to take care of his children.
All right, Miss Ledbetter. Now you can tell me about this story about how you bought this car, this only mode of transportation that she has to get to work.
Okay. What she told me initially was that she had a van. I don't know how she got a hold of this van. I don't know for sure. But that it needed a transmission, and she really needed the van because of the 2 children. So Jackie wanted to get this van fixed, and she said she needed $500 for the transmission, which is what the van needed. So the agreement was I would purchase the Sunfire. I thought initially it was for $1,000. The kids told me on the 9th when we sat down to do this that I had agreed for $1,000 in addition to the $500 that she needed for the transmission. So she was going to get the transmission fixed on the van. The Sunfire, Sunbird, whichever, was overheating. Her father is a certified mechanic, so he was going to get that fixed for us. That's why I didn't take possession of it right away. And I also knew that she needed a vehicle to be able to get back and forth to work.
Okay, let me see the 2 checks.
You know, so I wrote initially for $1,000 because I thought that was the agreement. Then I rewrote another one. She asked me that night if I had any cash that I could give her. So I wrote her another check for $400.
For what?
And I gave her $100 in cash. So the total for the car was $1,500. And she was to get the car fixed and to have Christmas money. You know, that would also enable her to have Christmas money.
Okay, and then her father didn't fix the car, and she and your son had a falling out.
Correct.
Okay, let me hear your story.
Okay, the day of that, she had given me a check for $1,000 and a check for $400. She knew that her
Don't
son...
tell me what she knew. Just tell me about the checks.
About the checks.
Don't look down. Look here.
They were supposed to be because her son has not paid child support since the day those kids were born.
It doesn't
My
make
son
any
paid
shot.
child-
Just a second. You're living in his mother's house with him. He doesn't have to pay child support. He doesn't have to pay
No,
child support.
what I was saying, he wasn't paying anything for these
He's
kids.
not paying anything. You two of you were living together. He's not going to pay you anything. Listen, you chose, young lady, to not only make one baby with somebody that doesn't work, who's a bum, but make 2 babies with somebody who doesn't work as a bum. I asked you a simple question. I asked you about these 2 checks, so don't tell me what she knows. Just tell me about the conversations that you had with her.
The reason why she gave me the checks.
Don't tell me the reason. Tell me about the conversation. I said
conversation
to her, she
between-
said to me.
Okay, she said, here, this is a gift for you and your children because I know you are struggling because it's hard. You got to get them food, everything like that. She knew it was around Christmas time. She wanted to see the kids get presents from me, you know, have food, have diapers, have formula, and that kind of stuff. So she said, here's this. This is a gift to you. She had never said that I had to pay her any type of money back.
You know, I would believe you with regard to one of these checks, not both. Madam, listen to me carefully.
Yes.
If she would do that, she would have written you 1 check for $1,400, not 2 checks, one for $1,000 and one for $400. That doesn't make sense. And if something doesn't make sense, it's not true. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now let's try your story over again.
Well,
because part of this, I believe, is a gift. Part of it.
well, I didn't understand why she gave me 2 checks.
Well, didn't you ask her?
No.
They're both made out to the same account. They're both from the same bank.
But wouldn't there be a memo if it was for a car?
No.
Or anything like that? Why
Not
wouldn't you?
necessarily. There's not a memo. It doesn't say anything.
You
It
know,
doesn't
you're-
say gift. It doesn't say car. It doesn't say anything.
Your Honor, I didn't feel like I had to put anything on there.
I didn't
because-
ask you any question.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have receipts here
For what?
for showing for the food that I had bought my children.
Who cares? They're your children. Who's supposed to feed them? Who's
Yeah.
supposed to feed them?
Yeah.
What do you mean, yeah? Who's supposed to feed him? Bird, he's got his own children to feed. Me, I got a lot of children, a lot of grandchildren. You make babies, you got to feed them. And if you make babies with a bum who doesn't work, then you have to feed them. That's what you do.
Joan Ledbetter claims the mother of her grandchildren, Jacqueline Snowden, owes for the return of money she paid for a Pontiac Sunfire.
Now, what happened with the car?
The car was never fixed. The car was never turned over. There was another issue that arose between her and my son. I was outside of a courthouse with her trying to discuss this issue with her. Her new boyfriend was there. I offered to even allow her to come work off part of it. She would not accept my phone calls.
Well, at this point, she left your house because she and your son had a falling out. She
I
said,
understand it.
You have a new boyfriend?
That is not the only reason why we had left the house. It is because their house had caught on fire. They took the spouting off the front of their house to where the water had leaked into the house. There is water coming down the walls. The father of the kids started, puking up blood, spitting up blood, all signs of black mold. I didn't want my children in that environment.
Fine. You're entitled to move out.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, that's what I was saying.
But there was also an incident involving the boyfriend. You called the police on him.
What, for the $80 that he stole out of my car?
That's why you were in front of a courthouse, wasn't it?
Yeah, because he stole $80 out of my vehicle.
He was not found guilty of that charge.
When?
I can't remember the day, but I got when they had paid me.
Was it after you moved out of his mother's house?
Yes.
Fine. Did he pay you back the $80?
We had to go through court to get the $80
Did you get
back.
the $80?
Yes, ma'am.
From him?
I don't know who had written the check. It was from the attorney.
So they made restitution.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't found guilty, but somebody made restitution.
Yes.
Well, same thing.
Yes.
Got to stop covering for him, Miss Ledbetter.
I agree with that.
Gotta
But
stop.
I also know that Jackie is a liar, and
There's no question she's a liar.
Okay.
Listen to me.
All right, I got it.
No question she's
I
a
got it.
liar. We've got the mother of your 2 grandchildren who she may fib, which she did here a little bit, but she also was the hardworking member of the family.
I agree.
Your son was the bum in the family. Not only was he a bum, but he stole money from the mother of his children. He stole money from her because he repaid it, or you repaid it. And if you're telling me you repaid it, then you are more of an enabler than you should be.
No, I'm not going to tell you that at all. But what I'm saying is he was not found guilty of the theft because she told him to get in the car to get it, to go do something with it. And I know I'm splitting hairs here, but she got mad because it's a long story.
She got mad because what? Are you, just think, before you're answering me, are you making an excuse for him?
Probably. But I do believe that she told him to get the money out of the car.
Maybe, and maybe he took the money out of the car and then misappropriated it.
That's what happened.
Fine.
There we go.
Listen,
That's a
if
good
you
way to
say
put
to
that.
somebody, would you please take the $80 out of my car and go and buy the children formula and Pampers, and he takes the money out and go puts it on OTB, he's stolen it.
Okay.
He's stolen it. Now, I don't know if that's what happened, but that's what misappropriating it is.
Got it.
He took it with permission to use for one thing, it was her money, and he used it on something else. Whether he bought drugs with it, OTB, or whatever, went out drinking with his friends. Who cares? He stole it. Got to stop covering for him.
Yes,
now,
ma'am.
Miss Snowden,
Yes, ma'am.
when you lived with Miss Ledbetter, did she help you with the children? So you're talking to me.
Some of the times.
That's all. Some of the time. Listen, she didn't bargain to be the mother of 2 little tiny children. That was you and the boyfriend. What's his name?
Justin.
That was you and Justin who made these 2 children. So if she was helpful part of the time, that's fine. And she let you live with Justin and your 2 children in a house for a couple of years. Did you pay for the telephone? Did you pay the electricity? Did you pay the water? Did you pay the insurance? Did you pay for nothing?
I was in and out over the past 2 years, not
Whatever.
necessarily.
That means you're unstable. What I'm suggesting to you is your children have 2 sets of grandparents. And from what I gather from Miss Ledbetter, because of all the acrimony that exists now between the 2 families, the children haven't seen their grandmother. That's not good for grandchildren.
I have a
Do I look like I need help from you? I read your case. I read your case. I'm just telling you, from the perspective of somebody who was in the family court for many, many years, from the perspective of somebody who has children, children thrive on the largest possible community of love and affection, and that means grandparents.
I agree with you, but the reason why I usually don't let her watch the kids unless I am present, but I don't want them in that house, is there are several biohazards that have used needles. And that
They don't have to go to the house.
I've invited them to our house, but they do not want to come to our house.
She
why
has a
don't-
trespass order against my son. He
Listen to
can't
me.
go.
We're not talking about your son.
Okay.
I read your petition. Your case says that unfortunately you're pursuing grandparents' visitation now in
I am.
court. And what I'm telling you now is you just said the wrong thing to me. You said your son has a no contact order, so he can't go to the house. I'm not talking about your son. He's a bum. I'm talking about you. She says you're welcome in her mother's house to come and see the grandchildren. Are you prepared to go to her house to
I
see
am
the
prepared to do whatever I need to do
Could
to
she come?
see
Could
her,
she?
to see my grandchildren.
She, not he. Could she come to your house to see the grandchildren?
Yes, and she can speak with my mother.
No. I don't care about your mother. I'm talking to you. You're old enough to make 2 babies. You're old enough to make a statement. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, she would like to make arrangements to come and see the children on a day when she's not working at your home. You have no objection to her coming to your home to visit with the grandchildren?
No.
Perfect. So that it's just a matter of the court setting a time, correct? Answer.
Yes, ma'am.
You owe Miss Ledbetter $1,000. That's for the car. The $500, I am assuming, was a gift. That's what I'm finding. The $400 check, the $100 in cash was a gift. If you are pursuing your visitation in court, we will make a copy of this tape available to you. She has already consented to you coming to the home and visiting the children, whether it's once a week or once every other week. You'll have to work out the scheduled time, but you can't take the children back to yours because it has nothing to do with your son. It only has to do with you
Okay.
and your grandchildren, okay?
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused, Miss Tonight.
He wants to see the grandchildren. I haven't let her see the grandchildren.
She's got a new boyfriend who was in court the second time when she took my son to court.
Because their house is not proper for kids to be in.
I called him a not too nice word for an anus, and she's been angry with me ever since.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Horn versus Herring. Step forward, please.
Lorraine Horn is suing her ex-boyfriend, Vernon Gene Herring, for unpaid rent and a loan to pay his bills. Gene claims she's been repaid.
Ms. Horn, the defendant was your boyfriend for a brief period of time, a couple of months, according to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And you allowed him to move into your home, claimed that you made a series of small loans to him. Then you had enough, and you asked him to leave. He did, owing you money.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Herring says that you had a give-and-take relationship. He spent money on you, you spent money on him, and that you're just angry that the whole thing didn't work out. Neither owes you for rent, nor for the loans that you allege to have made to him. When and where did you meet him, Miss Horn?
It was my brother's wedding, and he asked me to dance, and I danced with him.
Okay.
And
when was that?
That was February 10th.
2006?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did he move in with you?
Well, about February 23rd, he approached me. I'm a karaoke DJ at my brother's restaurant. And then one Saturday after that, he just sort of latched on to me.
I asked you when he moved in.
March 1st.
Where had you been living prior to March 1st, sir?
In Hopewell.
Did you have your own home? Did you have an apartment? Did you live with somebody?
I had my own home.
What did you do with your home when you moved in with Mrs. Horn?
My boys was living there,
How old are your boys?
19 and 18.
So you left them in the house to move in with her?
Yes.
2 teenagers?
Both of them were working.
You left 2 teenagers in your home?
Yes, ma'am.
You like this house?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you moved in with Miss Horn, what arrangements did you make with her as far as expenses?
We never talked about any expenses or anything.
Well, were you planning on staying with her?
Yes, ma'am. At the time, we thought we had a future together, possibility even marriage.
Well, then you didn't expect her to pay all the expenses, did you?
No, ma'am. I gave her money.
What money did you give her?
I didn't keep account of it, Your Honor.
Well, give me some idea. You were only there 2 months, so it doesn't really take,
I guess a total about $1,600.
Gave it to her in cash?
Some of it in cash, some of it checks.
Do you have any of those checks?
No, ma'am.
Why
She
not?
has all the copies because she put it in her bank. She has all the copies. I didn't have no reason to get a receipt for no reason.
You don't have to get a receipt, sir. All you need is a bank statement.
It was in her name, Your Honor, not mine. I gave it to her.
Mr. Herring, when you have a checking account and you give somebody a check, at the end of the month they send you a statement. The statement isn't in her name, the statement's in your name.
They were state checks, Your Honor.
State checks for what?
Unemployment checks.
So you were not working.
No, ma'am.
You were unemployed and getting state checks. In what amount?
They were $297 every week,
And how much is the mortgage on your house, sir?
$400 a month.
Who was paying that?
My boys were mostly paying that when I was living with her.
What does that mean, your boys were mostly paying that? Who wrote out the check for the mortgage?
My son paid it sometimes in cash after he cashed his check, and then there was times...
You actually let him move into your house?
I'd tell you one thing, ma'am. I'd say it was a bad gigolo, but he was good enough to get my money.
Miss Horn.
Yes,
You want
ma'am.
Miss Horn? How much money did you give him in total?
Okay, well, see, it all started, I'd lost my husband in October. I was really, really very low on myself and very, very emotionally upset when this man latched on to me. But I have the copies of the checks here.
Who were those people?
That's where I had my car liability insurance.
Drive Time Car Sales.
That's where my car... When I needed to make the payment, I didn't have my checking book, so she did it for me because I had put money
You're a
in it.
hustler.
No, ma'am.
Yes, you are. You're a hustler. When did he tell you, Miss Horn, that he was going to pay you back all this money?
Well, he promised me when he went back to work that he'd pay me $100 a week on it.
Did you promise her that?
No, ma'am. After we broke up, she got angry, and she threatened to take me before one of her friends that was a judge.
Yes, and what else?
Your Honor, I didn't have any reason to get a receipt from
Yeah,
her.
sure you do.
because-
Listen to me. Sure you do, because you just said to me after you broke up, she called you and she threatened you, and you gave her $600. So then you had a reason. At that time, sir, you had a reason.
Excused, you may step out.
I am no gigolo, and I did not take advantage of Miss Horn.
From the time I met him, all he did was borrow money, borrow money, borrow money until I got fed up with it.
I cared for her, and it's a relationship that went bad, and she got angry over it.
I have a big heart. I felt sorry for him.
Her family was telling her a lot what to do.
They didn't like him because he was using me for my money.
It happens every day. People fall in love and they fall out of love.
Don't let a gigolo take advantage of you.
Ashley Beischer is suing the father of her child, Joshua Schmidt, for a loan to buy a motorcycle. Joshua claims Amy slashed his tires on 2 occasions.
All rise. Now, this is case number 521 on the calendar in the matter of Beischer versus Schmidt.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
This used to be your boyfriend. When you were having a lapse in judgment while he was your boyfriend, you co-signed on a credit card for him to buy a dirt bike because he couldn't get it on his own.
Correct.
And the agreement was that he was to make the payments faithfully on that credit card.
That's correct.
He did make payments for a period of time on the credit card, and you separated. But he agreed to continue to make the payments on his bike, which he was using and which he took with him. Correct?
Correct.
Then there came a time that you and your fiance, this would be fiance, went to purchase a car, and you found out that your credit was awful. When you checked to ascertain why, according to your complaint, you found out that Mr. Schmidt had not been faithfully making on time the credit card payments on his bike. So what you want now is you want him to pay off that credit card so that hopefully you can get your credit restored.
That's correct.
Mr. Schmidt says that he was paying off the credit card until you slashed his tires.
That's ridiculous.
Shh. So that the fault is really yours for slashing his tires, causing him to lose his job. Have we joined the issue, Mr. Schmidt? Hello? You say in your answer it's really her fault.
Yes, I believe it is.
Perfect. I would like to see the date of the credit card loan and the history of payments.
I have that right here. This only goes back a year. They wouldn't.
Fine.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Schmidt, on what day, sir, do you claim your tires were slashed?
May 8th of 2006, I had 2 tires on my vehicle that were slashed. And then also again in October of 2006, I had another tire slash on my car.
Just a second. After which incident, sir, did you lose your job?
The second.
So it's really the October of 2006 incident that you claim caused you to lose your job
Yes.
and fall behind in your payments.
Yes.
So it would be a fair statement, sir, that it wasn't until October of 2006 that you started making either late payments or skipping payments or anything else. Up until that time, they were okay.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Your Honor, can I point something out?
Shh. Maybe if I need some help. Well, sir, in September of 2006, which was before your tire was slashed, you had a late fee of $39.
Okay.
That's before, right?
Yep.
And in August, which was before your slashed tires, you had a late fee of $39.
That would be after the first.
You just told me, sir, that you didn't lose your job until after the October incident.
Yes, but missing days of work.
No. Baloney. The issue was that after the October incident, you lost your job because of the tire slashing, causing you to fall behind in your payments. And you said to me prior to that time you were on time with your payments. So we now have August and September where you were late. Are you following me, Mr. Schmidt?
Yes, I am.
Who is this?
This is my witness, Jason.
Maybe. Jason. Now we have July. Late, Mr. Schmidt. And how much, sir, were you supposed to pay every month?
It's about $70.
So sometimes you didn't pay at all. And then you sort of doubled up the next month, right?
Yes.
You can't do that. You know you can't do that. Look at what we have here. a June late assessment, and you didn't make a payment. Whole month of June.
Is it possible though that me without a vehicle, how is it possible for me to get to work, to make money, to make payments on this?
What are you talking about? Who cares about whether you have a vehicle?
How do you get to work?
I don't care how you get to work. Walk, crawl, get your witness to pick you up. Now, let's go back to before the first incident, Mr. Schmidt, that you allege she slashed your tires, which you have to prove to me. Anyway, let's go back to April. Now, even you will know, Mr. Schmidt, that April comes before May, yes. Right? How do you account for the late charge in April, Mr. Schmidt?
I don't.
Right. So the cock and bull story that you gave me is just that. You've been making late payments on this loan forever, because we also have one for March. So what do I care how you get to work? How did Abe Lincoln get to school? I'm waiting for an answer.
Walk.
That's what he did. He walked. And you remember from grammar school how many miles he walked to school every day?
No, I don't.
I think it was 5 miles each way, wasn't it, Bert? I think something like that. 5 miles each way. Do you understand, Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
When somebody else does a nice thing to you, what you're supposed to do is not be a pig. If you want to, you get the loan totally out of her name, and then if you want to screw up your credit, you do it. But you don't screw up her credit. Now, how much is left on the loan?
The grand total is about $6,700.
Well, the maximum I can award you is $5,000. You understand that, and the check will be directly to the credit card company which holds the loan.
Yeah.
You're still responsible, as is he, for the remainder of it,
right.
And he's responsible to pay it.
Right.
Who do you work for?
I actually just got a new employment job. It's DeLuca and Tobin. It's a drilling company.
Well, you would have no objection if they deducted the remainder of the balance, anything over $5,000 from your check, would you? Listen to what I just said. You owe the money. You have the dirt bike, don't you?
Yes.
The maximum I can give her is $5,000. That will be made directly to the credit card company. You still owe them about $1,600. Are you prepared to sign an authorization to allow them to take the remainder of the money out of periodic payments out of your check?
Yes.
Perfect. We will prepare that order and send it over to the drilling company and any other company that you might work for subsequently. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues, and her child, Joshua Schmidt, owes for a $5,000 loan to buy a motorcycle. Joshua is countersuing, claiming Amy slashed his tires twice.
Okay, let's get to the slashed tires. Did you slash his tires in May?
Absolutely.
You don't look like a tire slasher.
No.
You didn't see her slash your tires, did you?
No, I didn't.
Did you?
I did not see her, no.
Step up. Your name?
Jason.
Jason what?
Moyer.
How do you know her?
Through him.
When was the last time you had any contact with her?
While.
A while is not a month
Well,
a year.
don't talk to her, but I've seen her around town.
When was the last time you had contact with her?
Last fall, or around there.
Tell me about that contact.
Well,
Look at me.
I was at the bar and I had walked by and
Bar? What bar?
Krieger's possibly.
What do you mean Krieger's possibly?
Well, it was either that bar or another one over there.
What time?
Probably 8 or 9 at night.
What date?
I'm not exactly sure.
What month?
October or November.
Mr. Schmidt, you sure you want me to do this to your friend? You sure you want me to do this to your friend?
Yes.
Be my pleasure, sir. You're walking by the bar that you don't know on a date that you don't remember, in a year that perhaps you remember, and tell me what you believe you have that is germane to this case.
Well, I had heard her and her friends laughing about how his tires had been popped.
Yes?
Yeah, so I assumed she had something to do with it.
Oh, well, then you assume. Good. Do you have anything else that's germane to this case?
I did pick him up for work, too, a couple times.
I don't care about that. Sit down. You have anything else on the tire slashing, sir?
I just have a copy of, actually, no, I do not have
Good.
this on
Thank
me.
you very much. Your counterclaim is dismissed. You owe $5,000, and we will prepare an order for the remainder of the $1,600 to be deducted automatically from your check. Forward that to your employer. with my love and hugs and kisses. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I hope we have a friendship for my daughter's sake.
I do not know. Hopefully it gets better in time.
Just be a man. Take responsibility for his actions.
Thanks.
All parties in the matter of Matthews versus Hadsall, step forward, please.
24-year-old Thomas Matthews is suing his ex-fiancée, 29-year-old Janice Hadsall, for the return of the engagement ring. Janice claims she sold the ring to pay bills.
Mr. Matthews, according to your complaint, you and the defendant became engaged.
Yes, ma'am.
You bought her a ring. You were supposed to move into a new townhouse.
Yes.
So far, that's correct. Is that right?
No. Thomas and I had never gotten engaged.
According to your complaint, you bought her an engagement ring.
Yes.
And you wanted to move into a townhouse. In order to do that, you had to break your lease. And you paid the bills to do that, to break the lease.
Yes.
So that you could move into this new townhouse together.
Yes.
After you paid those bills, you found out that Miss Hadsall was sort of friendly with her ex-husband again. Are you now living in the townhouse, sir?
Yes.
And is living in the townhouse with the ex-husband, which was facilitated through your paying the bills to get her out of her old lease.
Correct.
That's
So
not
you
true.
want two things. You want the engagement ring back, and you want the bills that you paid.
Yes.
Let's talk about the ring first.
Okay.
You have it?
No, I don't.
Where is it?
Well, when Thomas and I was supposed to move in the townhome, he agreed to help me with the bills and the utilities and stuff like that. When he and I had split up or broken up, that I had to sell not only that ring, but some other items that I had for
I don't believe
my
you.
bills.
I think you're a liar. I think you just didn't bring it because you didn't want to give it to me. That's what I think. How much was the ring?
$2,069.56.
Describe it to me.
It was white gold. I believe it was a carat and a half.
You have the bill for it?
Yes.
Jewelers calls it an engagement ring. And K Jewelers doesn't lie. Talk and talk fast.
We had started dating. We moved into an apartment together. We didn't like the apartment that we had gotten. He and I had some problems. We decided that after we were going to move out of the apartment together, that we went ahead and split up, and he moved out immediately into his parents' home. We had talked about, before we moved into the townhome, possibly getting back together. The day after we got back together, he told me to meet him at the apartment, that he had a gift for me. When he showed up at my place, he gave me the ring. And I told him, you do understand that we just got back together, that we're not getting engaged? He said, that's fine. He had asked me, when do you think would be a good time to get engaged? And I told him, not even for a year from now.
You're
And
not
he
a
said that
nice
was
person.
fine.
You're not a nice person. Because whether you said it or not, bottom line is, you're old enough to know what an engagement ring looks like. And if you accept it, and if later you go back to your ex-husband, you be a nice person, and you give him back his ring so he doesn't feel like a fool. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do I make myself clear?
Yes.
Let me tell you about the bills. Sometimes in a relationship, you are either the dumpor or the dumpee. You got dumped on. The second part of your claim is that you got dumped on because you paid the bills to get her out of a lease so that she could move into a place that she really liked. And she did move into a place she really liked, only not with you. That's something that's not nice, but it's not something that's actionable in a court.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
When you filed for divorce against ex-husband, were you the plaintiff or defendant?
The plaintiff.
And what did you allege in the action for divorce? Don't say You remember. What were the grounds for divorce?
He had an alcohol problem.
So he was abusive.
Not physically abusive, mentally abusive.
He was abusive, right?
Yes.
Because when you have an alcohol problem, you're not only abusive to you, you're abusive to your children, right?
Not technically.
Oh, not technically.
No.
No. How do you think I'm so smart? You think he doesn't have an alcohol problem now?
No.
You don't think that?
No, I don't.
And you brought him back into the lives of your children.
Yes, I did.
That makes you doubly stupid. But that's your prerogative. Meanwhile, you owe him $2,070 for the engagement ring since it's not here. That's all. Step out.
What is her excuse when you step out?
I think she was not very understanding at all.
I just wanted to get my stuff back and be done with her.
Thomas had to buy people's love and affection.
I don't need to buy affection. I have a lot of people who love me and a lot of friends.
This is his.
Now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hartley versus Turner. Step forward, please.
Victoria Hartley is suing her ex-boyfriend, Marcus Turner, for rent, the return of property, and harassment. Victoria says Marcus is obsessed with her.
Miss Hartley, you and Mr. Turner lived together for a while. You had an apartment together. You left.
Yes, ma'am.
It is your claim that when you left, it was agreed that Mr. Turner would keep the apartment and pay the rent on the apartment. The apartment had been leased with a co-signer, a friend of yours. Is this your friend?
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that Mr. Turner did not pay the rent for a month. The landlord came after your friend. Your friend paid the rent. You felt obliged to reimburse her for the rent because you and Mr. Turner were living together. You want Mr. Turner to pay you that money.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the first thing. Second thing is you claim that he has some property of yours in a storage unit that you want. And the third thing is you claim he's been harassing.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Turner says you moved out of the apartment without notice, so you can pay that month's rent, that you had plenty of opportunity to get your stuff from storage, and he's got a counterclaim, and his counterclaim's rather interesting. He wants you to pay for your half of the storage. That's ridiculous, Mr. Turner. You agree, don't you? You can't say you abandoned the property and wanted to pay for the storage, right?
Well, if she wants her stuff back, I mean, I'm willing to give back her washer and dryer. That is not a problem. But, I mean, to come after me for 2 years now.
Just a second. So you're willing to give her back her washer and dryer?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. I see how easily we resolve that. Washer and dryer for you. Is it in storage, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So you'll give her back her washer and dryer.
Your Honor.
What?
There's also a box of items that my grandmother had given to me, which she has since passed away, that I would like back.
What's in it?
There are different water pitchers. In the box is also a home interior bride and groom that she gave me when I got married.
You know where that is?
I set that on her mother's back porch. I called her cell phone, so I just left a box on your back porch. You might want to go there. There was a couple kids across the street. They seen me, so.
It's what you're telling me, Mr. Turner. You don't have the box.
No, I dropped the box off at her mother's house.
When?
On the back porch.
When?
Not too sure what day, maybe a year and a half ago.
All I want to know is you do have the washer and dryer. You say you don't have the box anymore.
No, I do not have that.
Doesn't have the box anymore. Now, Miss Hartley, listen to me very carefully. I read your complaint very carefully. There was a time that you went to court to get a restraining order against Mr. Turner. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
On what date was that? Do you remember?
October 2006.
And you had already separated at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I've been in domestic relations courts for many, many years. When you go to a domestic relations court, you are asked whether there is anything else that you need. And if you wanted to, you could have said to the judge, there is property in the storage room that I want, and he refuses to give me access to it. Did you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get an order to go and get your property?
No.
From the judge?
On the restraining order, it says that I am able to get my things out of storage.
So? Why didn't you go get them?
Because anytime I contact Mr. Turner, he constantly makes it a date type thing.
Then what you do is you go back to court and say he's violated the protective order. You don't wait a year and a half and sue him for the property.
Okay.
It's been a long time. If you really wanted it, you would have gotten it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Victoria Hartley says ex-boyfriend Marcus Turner owes for rent, the return of property, and harassment. Marcus is countersuing for storage fees.
Now, on what day of the month did Miss Hartley leave the residence? Do you remember?
July, March.
July 19th, 2005.
Did you pay July's rent?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay July's rent?
Yes, ma'am.
What about August? Did you pay August's rent?
No, ma'am. I was moved out at the time.
You can't be moved out half the time.
No, I mean,
Mr.
like
Turner.
there was 2 weeks left on the lease. She moved out like at the middle of the month. I just stayed because it was paid for.
When did you leave, Mr. Turner?
The end of the month.
End of July?
Yes.
And when was the lease up?
August?
So there was a month left on the lease?
I believe so.
Now, when the two of you separated, what arrangements did you make as far as staying in the apartment, Mr. Turner?
I told her I would finish staying the 2 weeks and just move out slowly. She did not have a problem with it. And
Did you say, I'll finish moving out in 2 weeks, or I'll finish moving out when the lease is over?
No, I move out in 2 weeks.
What did he say?
When I told him I was leaving, I said, what do you want to do about the apartment? Do you want me to contact the manager and tell her I'm going? He says, no, because I don't know where I'm going to live right now. I'll take care of the apartment complex. I said, are you sure? Are you going to live with your grandmother? Are you, do you have a place to go? He said, right now I don't want to live with my grandma. I'm just going to stay here till I find a place. I will let the apartment complex know when I leave. I will handle this.
Sounds right to me, Mr. Turner.
No, ma'am. Because I told her...
Did you pay anything for the month of August, sir?
No, ma'am.
Well, you have to. You had a lease. Who did you expect?
It was month to month at that time. The 4-year lease was up, and it was month to month.
Oh, so you just had to give them a 30-day notice?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you give them 30-day notice?
I didn't, no.
Well, but you were the last one in the apartment.
Yes, ma'am. Because I thought she was going to give it. I never told her not to.
Right. Well,
or...
how much was the rent?
I believe at that time it was $570 a month.
Well, how much did you pay?
Sandra O'Reilly ended up paying the apartment complex. They wanted $804. There was some damages to the apartment. They had to replace the bathtub.
Just a sec. You lived there for a year? Mm-hmm. Good. So you pay $400, he pays $400. That's for August rent. You didn't give 30 days notice, he didn't give 30 days notice.
If I would have known he wasn't going to say anything to the apartment complex, I would have paid for at least half of August.
Well, that's what you're doing. You're paying for half of August. And he's paying for half of August.
All right.
What else?
Even after the restraining order, Marcus has still called the store where I work at and the store I left from. I've had to transfer to 3 different stores, so he finally will stop calling. He hasn't stopped calling. He still calls the stores where I'm at.
What do you call her for?
I do not call her. I don't know where she lives. I don't know where she works. I have no idea what her phone number is. I can't call somebody if I don't know where they live, where they work.
Do you have any proof of his calling?
Yes, ma'am. You want the records before or after the restraining order?
Let me see the records after the restraining order.
I just need the date of the restraining order. Restraining order was dated 10/05/2006. The highlighted ones are the past stores that I've worked at.
How do I know they're coming from him?
If you look at the top of the bill, it'll say his name and his cell phone number.
How did you get these?
I sent an email to Sprint and told him I was taking him to court and wanted phone records.
Is your phone number 810?
That was one of the stores I was at, yes, ma'am.
Whose number ends in 3753?
That was the store I went to in July, and then he had come up to the store and said he was somebody else, left his cell phone number, wanted to know was I dating anybody. I don't see why he has to keep calling the stores where I'm at, asking about me, driving past my house, if he doesn't have any of my items except the washer and dryer in storage.
Why do you call her?
I do not call her.
Well, you did. These are your phone records.
There was a time that I did because we was working.
These are your phone records.
All right.
December and January. Clearly, you made phone calls to her places of employment. There's no reason for you to call her places of employment. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't call her anymore, sir.
Okay.
Now, you want to tell me in 10 seconds about your counterclaim?
No, you done dismissed it, so...
I didn't do that yet, but I'm going to.
I hear for like a year and a half, she did not want her washer and dryer. Now she's coming back for it. I think she's owes me half the storage. I mean, it was in there. I gave her 4 opportunities to let her come get it. My one witness...
Listen to me. Mr. Turner, I don't know why she's here, sir. I have no clue why she's here. She's going to get her $400 for your half of the rent for August 2006 because that you should have paid. Neither one of you gave 30 days notice. She didn't give 30 days notice. You didn't give 30 days notice. Sure. If her friend who co-signed for you had to come up with that money and she reimbursed her friend, it's only reasonable and fair that you be the responsible.
No, very true.
Okay, the washer and dryer is laying in storage. She wants it.
Yes.
You give it to her. The two of you never had an agreement that she was going to pay for the storage. There was never a contract that she was going to pay any part of the storage. That's why your counterclaim is dismissed.
Okay.
Do you understand? Thank you very much. Goodbye. Good luck. Have a happy life.
That is excused. You may step out.
He's a stalker, and he will still, to this day, not leave me alone.
Truthfully and honest.
Still comes to my job. He still goes past my house.
I mean, here she says I'm driving by your house, doing this.
He's stalking me and won't leave me alone.
It's crazy.
Well, from this day forward...
Roscoe is suing her husband's ex-wife, Deborah Roscoe, for ongoing harassment. Deborah is accusing Beverly of harassing her.
All rise. This is case number 506 on the calendar in the matter of Roscoe versus Roscoe. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Mrs. Roscoe, the defendant is your husband's former wife. This
Right.
is your husband, I assume?
Yes.
And these are your 2 stepsons?
Yes.
Your 2 sons?
Right.
And your 2 sons?
Right.
When were you divorced?
92.
And for how long did the boys live with their father?
They never have.
Never.
Until one of them was kidnapped.
My question to you is, during what times did the boys live with their father?
The youngest one has never lived with him. The oldest one went there for a Thanksgiving vacation and never came back.
What year?
98.
Who's the older? You went to live with your father in 1998 until when, sir?
2006.
So you lived there for 8 years?
Yes.
Did you see your brother?
No.
while you lived there?
No.
It is your claim, Miss Roscoe, that your husband's former wife, the first Mrs. Roscoe, I assume the first.
She's the second.
The second Mrs. Roscoe. You are the third Mrs. Roscoe.
I'm the fourth.
You're the fourth Mrs. Roscoe.
Yes.
He's got something.
You're the
fifth.
Elusive, but he has something.
No.
Has been harassing you.
Right. I need to clarify.
Go ahead.
What they said. First of all, Sean did not live with Bob until 2006 because he moved into my house in 2004 because he had nowhere else to go.
Is that right? You were with your stepmother?
No, I stayed with friends mainly because of I didn't
ask you for any other reason. Your complaint is that she harasses you.
Yes.
You want her to stop. She says
Right.
she doesn't harass you, you harass her. You want to know who's harassed?
The kids.
Me.
Oh. That's true.
So, Mrs. Roscoe, the fourth Mrs. Roscoe, that would be you.
Yes.
You have 5 minutes to tell me how she's harassing you
Okay.
legally.
All right. It started in 2004 when Sean moved into my house. Bob did not live there. Sean did. He had nowhere else to go, so I let him stay with me. She found out how old I was, and it started from that point on. I have always been mistress, lot lizard. What else? All
Don't
kinds of
ask
stuff.
her.
Okay. I have emails. I have certified letters. She sent the same letter 3 times, 2 by certified mail, 1 regular mail, after she paid to get our address. This is the certified letter that she sent. And I have the email where she stated she would pay $50 to get our address again after she had contacted my ex-husband and his family members through Christmas and New Year's every year for 2 years.
I'm not interested in your ex-husband and his family. You're suing her.
Right, but she's trying to get our address. They
Listen
don't give
to
it, so she buys it. So
She
she
got your
sent the
address.
email she would pay
She
for
got
it.
your address. So
Right, but
let's go.
for
What
what
is the other harassment? Let's go.
Well,
go. You had 5
okay.
minutes of moving.
All right, I'm trying. She says that the kids are not allowed to talk to their dad yet. They have an address, they have email addresses, and a phone number where they can contact him.
I haven't heard anything yet, madam, that amounts to legal harassment.
Okay.
Keep going.
Threatening to have my kids taken away from me. I live in
Just a
every
second.
day.
Just a second. Show me where she threatened to have your children
Okay.
taken away from you.
All right. In here, you'll see several references to where she's talked to my in-laws, my ex-in-laws, and she's surprised that they allow me to keep the kids there. She has made contact with them and tried to...
So what? Who cares?
I mean, there's no reason for her to bring me into her and Bob's business. Those are their kids. It was his support.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Miss Roscoe. There's no reason for her to get involved with you and your children and your former in-laws or anybody else. That's not legally actionable. It's just bad behavior. I'm waiting for something legally actionable. Like somebody calling you 150 times a day.
Well, we've had...
Like somebody posting things about you on the internet, defamatory statements, like somebody parking themselves outside your home with a constant surveillance of your home and police reports to follow that up.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying to
Yes,
you?
I
So
do.
far, I see annoying. So far, I don't see legal.
Okay. Here's where she states about my kids. Give it time. I may not have them at all. This has been going on for years.
Miss Roscoe, just because you say it's been going on for years doesn't mean it's been going on for years.
Okay, well, I've highlighted the majority of the parts. Right here, teach your children well for as long as you have them. It's not so much...
Just a second.
Okay.
Have you ever told the truth? I figured out that you lie almost as well as your boyfriend. You can't beat
That's
him. He's
her.
the best. But you come to a close second. Who wrote that?
That's her.
And then teach your children well for as long as you have them. Well, that's a good idea. Teach your children well for as long as you have them, because you won't have them forever. You could have gotten rid of me by having my son call, but that would have been too easy.
Her son was 21 years old and had known her number for years. He did not even live in my house. He lived with his girlfriend where he had a restraining order put on him.
Do you answer these messages?
I used to. I deleted that name so she wouldn't have it anymore.
So you answered her?
Sometimes, yeah, when I took all I could take. Yeah.
All
and
right,
I called the
good.
police.
Okay,
And
keep going. Your 5 minutes are almost
okay.
up.
Every time Bob would send her an email about the interest on the child support that she got or anything, she would answer it to me.
So what?
Well, she has a history of harassing him and being mean and violent. This is a letter from her
Did you ever
own.
file a police report?
I tried.
What do you mean you tried? What does that mean, you tried?
Because they said it was would be civil. They could not do anything criminally unless I could prove something civilly. So that's why.
No, that's not true. That's a lot of baloney. They could not do something criminally unless you could prove something civilly. It's ridiculous.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Beverly Roscoe claims her husband's ex-wife, Deborah Roscoe, harasses her constantly. Deborah is accusing Beverly of harassing her.
All right, let's hear about her harassment of you.
Okay. That would probably be the better way to start.
Go ahead.
It began between 99 and 2000. She started contacting my youngest son in Washington over the internet, and when I finally seen Beverly Joe 99 come popping up a lot of times, I finally asked my son, I says, who is this Beverly Joe? Well, that's Dad's girlfriend. And I said, no, it can't be Dad's girlfriend because he's been married since 95. Well, that's Dad's girlfriend. What's she want? She wants me to go to the airport and she'll send me a ticket and I can go to Ohio. I said, oh, no, you're not going to Ohio. I said, I lost one son that went there for a Thanksgiving and was refused to be sent home. I said, you're not going. She continued to write, and he got to the point where he got belligerent with her. So then all of a sudden, she wasn't nice to him no more. He was going to be put into the mental institute, and that started things.
You complain that she's harassed you. You have 5 minutes to tell me how.
I have blocked her from her name from my addresses, my emails, my IMs. She now goes under my ex-husband's IMs. She posted my social security number over the internet January 29th of 2006.
Why did you do that?
During those messages that you have right there, the way she was carrying on about how she was going to come and sit in my driveway and how she was going to stay at my ex-in-laws and stuff until she could get to me the next day and stuff. Yes, I did, just to shut her up, and it worked.
So you posted her social security number?
I called the cops. They wouldn't do anything about it. And it wasn't
You deserve
posted.
each other.
It wasn't posted.
Absolutely deserve each other. Listen to me. Sounds to me like you two women deserve each other.
No, she just needs to leave my sons and I alone.
Listen to me. Madam, you have choices in this life. If what you're going to do is make a mission out of making each other's lives miserable, because somebody's got to start the text message and somebody's got to finish it. Right now, there is absolutely no reason to have any contact with each other. You have grown children. If they want to see their father, they will contact him. If they want to speak to him, they will contact you. They're big boys. So these two women have absolutely no reason to have any contact with each other. Is that right?
That's true.
Right.
Ma'am, I've got some more
Listen
evidence.
to me. Well, get to it, because now you have 2 minutes.
I've got some recordings I'd like you to listen to.
I am absolutely going to listen to recordings if you have them.
How did you work this? These are just a couple of the messages that come over my telephone.
You know my name. You ain't called me back within 5 minutes. I'm going to go find your little boy. And by the time I'm done with him, he will need you. But he won't be leaving Ohio for a while because he'll be in the hospital.
That was him.
That was
Yes, ma'am, that was me. Yes.
I would like to think that you're grown up enough to want to get some sort of help for your son, who you have no idea what has become in 7 years. As a matter of fact, it was he who pushed me, and I refused to have the cops take him. Nobody called the cops on him. He walked out in front of a cop car and almost got hit. And they were going to arrest him for the way he was yelling and carrying on, and I told them just to let him get his stuff and leave. Now, if you think you can grow up and act like a 50-year-old mother, you can call me back and I will explain to you what happened. If you want to sit there and listen to his little pouty stories, it's all full. You go right ahead. But all you and Josh are doing is bob off to a point where the only person going to pay for you two sitting there acting like idiots is Sean. So if you think you can grow up and call me back, I'll be here for a
Nothing wrong with that message.
They get better.
Shut up. Listen to me. I didn't ask you for anything.
Okay. Wonderful mother that you portray yourself as. You would personally give it what's going on in your kid's life. But since you don't, that's fine. I will make sure he gets a ride back to Washington. You can either call me back and be mature, or I'll send him back via the Knox County Sheriff's Department. That's your choice.
Now, who's harassing who?
Just a sec. Shh. Quiet.
All I'm going to say is you better have made sure you got permission from his probation officer to take him out of the state, because she will know tomorrow that you did. You can either grow up and talk to me like a woman and quit calling Bob's cell phone like some tramp in heat, or I will file charges on you like they told me I could. And as for Sean, you're really teaching him a lot of responsibility to have him up and walk off of a job that he had for less than a month. Yeah, you're teaching him a lot, Deb.
Tired of him yet?
I haven't heard anything that's legally actionable, madam. Nothing.
No, it's just showing that who is calling who.
Listen to me. You text her, you write to her. She has. Listen,
go ahead and write
she
back.
had evidently, Mrs. Roscoe, she had your son at some point living in her home, this one, and there was clearly some difficulty with him in the home. I don't plan on getting into what it was because, quite frankly, I don't care. It has absolutely nothing to do with this lawsuit. All I have to tell you is people behaving badly does not create a lawsuit. Just listen to me very carefully. Mr. Wonderful over here got married 4 times. You have a short attention span, Mr. Roscoe. In any event, what the 2 wives have done is they've made their lives miserable, at least currently, with calling and writing and texting and whatever. It's time to say enough. Because these 2, whether they're good kids, whether they're not good kids, whether they're difficult, whether they're problems, right now, how old are you?
22.
And you?
20.
All grown up. It takes 2 to make an argument. 2. Right now, you have no reason to have any communication with each other. Do you speak to your sons?
I haven't since September.
That's their prerogative, sir. If for some reason they don't want to talk to you, that's it. But it has nothing to do with her. It has nothing to do with their mother. Because they're big boys. And if they wanted to talk to you, they would. So I don't see any reason for you to have any further contact with each other. Why don't you both consent to an order that prohibits any contact whatsoever, either by mail, by telephone, by text message, by any form of communication that we know of in modern electronics?
I had reported her to her work to get her
Your
to
case
quit.
is dismissed, madam. You have no case. I mean, I ask you a question, you go back into history. I asked you, are you prepared to enter into an order that says, I will have no contact with the second Mrs. Roscoe, either in person, by mail, by telephone, telegraph, pigeon, or whatever?
I've tried to obtain
Are you
one.
prepared to enter into such an order?
You betcha, ma'am.
Very good. I'll have somebody prepare it back there. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's right. We both need to grow up, but somebody needs to grow up more and act their age, because I act mine.
This little lady's like the Energizer Bunny. She just don't stop.
Deb knows who's lying.
I hope she'll lose my phone number.
And now the next case. Her daughter, April Whiteman, for a loan to save her home from foreclosure. April says her mother is a mean, hateful, and vindictive woman.
All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 478 on the calendar in the matter of Brinkington versus Whiteman.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss Brinkington, the defendant is your daughter, and you claim a loan to her in the amount of $5,000 to pay off some bills that she had. Your daughter says that you never made a loan to her. You helped her out when she was in financial difficulty. She is counterclaiming, alleging that you made false reports to Child Protective Services about her, causing her to lose her teenage daughter for 6 months. She wants to be compensated. Tell me about when you made this alleged loan.
Well, the loan of $5,000 was made in the summer of 2004, and April came knocking, banging on my door.
Just a second.
You know, crying.
Listen to me, Miss Brinkington. What month in the summer of 2004?
It was May.
And your daughter came to your house and...
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
She came to my house, tears, you know, dropping from her eyes. Oh, I got to see you, I got to see you, I got to see you, like that. And I didn't know what to think because my daughter has been estranged from me since 1977. And I never see her unless she wants to borrow money or something. And out of the clear blue sky she comes, and she's begging me and crying. And she says, my children are going to be on the street if you don't do something. You got to do something. Please do something. She says, if you will do something, she says, I would be the kind of daughter I should have been all those years. She's saying, if you'll do that, she says, I'll come and visit you. I'll send you Mother's Day, Christmas, birthday.
Ms.
She's never done any of that.
Ms. Brinkington, your daughter, according to your complaint, needed money. And according to you, you paid some of her bills.
I have the canceled checks for that.
I'd like to see them.
Yes, ma'am. This is just the checks that I wrote.
It's the only thing I'm interested in. Where was your house located?
61.
Not your house located.
In Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Who did you own the house with?
Myself.
Who held the mortgage?
Household mortgage.
They still hold the mortgage?
I ended up losing the house to foreclosure.
When did you lose the house?
In about October, November of 2004, I believe it was.
Your mother has checks here written out to household mortgage in the amount of $938.
Okay.
Would that be your mortgage?
I don't believe my mortgage was that high. I mean, I've had a lot of chaos in my life since that time, but I thought my mortgage was about 800 and something.
How many months were you behind in your mortgage when you came to your mother?
Probably about 2.
So you wrote these checks out for her, and what arrangements did she make to pay you back?
She wrote checks, post-dated checks, $210 a month to pay me back.
When she gave you the checks, did you deposit them right away?
No, ma'am. She asked me to hold them for 3 months.
Did you do that?
Well, see, Your Honor, unfortunately, April is a crack addict, and I was worried about the money. That's why I went ahead and cashed 2.
When she asked you to hold them for 3 months, and you said you would hold them for 3 months, you did not hold them for 3 months.
I waited for all but the one I have here. All but the first one.
Okay, I'm going to hear you.
I guess she's trying to humiliate me. First of all, I could submit to any kind of drug test today. I'm not a crack addict. I don't take drugs at all. And this is all part of the mental abuse and the stuff I've suffered my whole life. I'm tired. I'm tired of it. She gave me that money to help me. I'm tired of it. I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot with this woman. I've been through a lot of abuse. She's my mother. I shouldn't even be here, okay? I shouldn't even be here.
Miss Reitman.
I don't mean to cry. I'm upset. I mean, how could you even say that about your own daughter? First of all, it's not true.
Miss Reitman, let me ask you this question. Why would you give your mother a whole bunch of post-dated checks if you didn't intend to pay her back?
Because the reason I gave her the checks is she browbeat me and harassed me, would not leave my property. I had to call the police to get her removed from my property, and I did it out of duress. I was stressed out, and I wanted her to leave. And that's why I did it, and I shouldn't have done it.
Okay, but you did it.
I did.
Okay. So you wrote her out the checks, and that was your intention when you wrote her out the checks to pay her back. Okay. Now, let me get to your counterclaim, Miss Reitman. It is your claim. Put your hand down. Okay. It is your claim that your mother made false charges about you to Child Protective Services, and as a result of that, your teenage daughter was removed.
Yes, ma'am. She was.
How many children do you have?
These 2 right here.
These 2?
Yes.
You were removed from the house? The answer would be yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up. When were you removed from the house?
Probably about my 7th grade year.
How long ago was this that you were removed from the house?
Probably about a year.
How old are you now?
15.
And how long did you stay in foster care?
Half a year.
Listen to me very carefully. When you were removed from the house, did you tell them that you wanted to go into foster care?
No, ma'am.
You did not. And where was your brother? Where were you?
I was out on my own, actually.
How old are you?
I'm getting ready to be 20.
How long have you been out of the house?
Well, I actually just moved back in, but probably about a couple of months to a year, something like that.
A couple of months is 2, a year is 12. How long had you been out of the house?
Maybe 5 or 6 months.
Where did you go?
I moved with my grandfather in Alabama. I stayed with him for a little bit.
Whose father is that?
Ma'am, when you want me to talk, I can
Just
tell
a
you
second.
the truth.
He says he moved in with his grandfather.
Not true.
Is that your father's father or your mother's father?
It's sort of like my father's father. He's not.
I don't understand what that means, sort of like.
He's not actually his father, but he's a friend of the family.
So you moved in with a friend?
On my dad's side, yes.
Why did you leave home?
Because I didn't want to stay.
I don't hear you.
I didn't want to stay with my mother. I wanted to be on my own.
Sit down. You have the complaint that you filed with Child Protective Services, do you?
I have the notice of unfounded investigation where it was unfounded.
I'd like to see what you have.
But I do need to explain something.
I will. April, what kind of treatment plan were you involved in?
Just different things that they did. They had me visitation. They had me assessed at Catawba Mental Health. I mean, just things like that.
Who's Gilbert?
That's the boyfriend of mine.
Well, as part of the plan, it says April is placed under affirmative duty. April, that's you, to have no contact with this man while Desiree, your daughter, is with her, and not to let him have any contact with her, and that includes phone calls. So evidently they found something that was untoward between your boyfriend and your daughter.
No, ma'am, they didn't, but I have gone back to court for that, and that has all been dismissed.
All right.
Judge Judy continues, and Emily Brinkenton says her daughter, April Whiteman, owes for a loan to save her home from bank foreclosure. April is countersuing, claiming her mother filed a false report with Child Protective Services.
Ms. Reitman, you have no case against your mother because the Child Protective Services report does not indicate that they found that there was no abuse and neglect. They decided to not pursue it after having you and your daughter under their supervision for at least 6 months. So it's not that they ruled that there was no abuse or neglect going on in your house. They found that your 15-year-old daughter could go home if you did certain things and cooperated, which, according to you, you did. So that doesn't mean that the reports were unfounded at all. That means that you did, at least according to them, what Child Protective Services told you had to do in order to have your daughter come back to you, which is a far cry from nothing was going wrong in your house. Do you understand?
I understand.
Good. Okay, you owe your mother $4,200. Don't say anything else. Listen to me very carefully. She's still your daughter, still your granddaughter, and still your grandson. They are still part of your family. I believe that your daughter, listen to me, I believe that your daughter was probably under some stress, whether it was drug-induced, there was mental health issue, or whatever it was your understanding that you were going to be paid back.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
weren't paid back. You have a right to be paid back. But don't say anything else. Don't make it any worse.
I'm not.
Do you understand?
I'm trying to make it better.
No.
I do have one thing to say. Yeah.
You're trying to make it better? I want to hear your version of making it
Yes,
better.
ma'am. I'm not wanting to be here. I'm in a sad situation to be here, but my main thing, April is a drug addict since teenage years. I would like to get her some help.
Listen to me. I can't help her. And what I'm telling you is that's not helpful. If I cannot order her to do something, you're making that statement is not helpful.
I thought maybe you could get her a drug test.
Well, I'm not going to get her a drug test.
Okay.
Right now, she has one minor child living in the house, but that minor child looks pretty savvy. She has a 20-year-old who's living in the house. And if between the 20-year-old who's living in the house and her teenager who's living in the house, they can't convince their mother, if she needs help, to get help, I certainly am not going to be able to do it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,200.
Thank you,
That's
Judge
all.
Judy.
As long as they're excused, you may step out.
In a perfect world, I'd like to see her never talk to me again.
My prayer would be that April would see that I love her.
I've been hurt my last time by her. I'm tired. I just want to be left alone.
Customer service rep Dolores Harris is suing her son's fiancée, 22-year-old retail manager Stacy Showers, for falsely accusing her of violating a no-contact order. Stacy is countersuing for harassment.
All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. This is case number 284 on the calendar in the matter of Harris versus Showers. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Miss Harris, Miss Showers is your son's fiancée.
Yes.
I assume this is your son.
Yes, it is.
I gather that you and your future daughter-in-law do not get along.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
that's not what this case is about. You claim that your future daughter-in-law had you falsely arrested,
Yes, ma'am.
as a result of which you spent a night in jail, and you want to be compensated for that.
Yes, ma'am.
And the defendant says that you violated a protective order and that you've made her life miserable over the past 6 months, harassed her. She is counterclaiming. I gather that in May of this year, you, according to you, were fed up with the way Miss Showers was treating your son, and you decided to confront her.
Yes, ma'am.
So you went to her place of business.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct? And where did she work?
She works for Martin's grocery store.
How long had she worked there?
I believe she's been there about a year now.
How large is the town where you live?
It's a very small town.
How many grocery stores are there in town?
2.
Which is the bigger one?
Martin's.
And what's the other one?
It's Food Lion.
So you went to her place of business in May, and according to you, you had words with her, and when she was attempting to walk away, you grabbed her by the arm because you weren't finished talking to her.
I didn't grab her, I touched her arm.
As a result of her going into the store in May, you filed a complaint with the police, and they issued a no-contact order. So far correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you went to court on that no-contact order in June.
Yes, ma'am.
June 29th, according to your complaint. And so you had been served with the no-contact order, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you decided on June 29th that you wanted to buy some flowers for a friend. Why? She's sick?
She just had surgery.
And you decided to go to the store where Miss Showers works to get the flowers. And according to your statement, You called first to see if she was there. She wasn't there, so you went there. Rather than going to the Food Lion to get your flowers, you went to her store to get your flowers. And while you were there, she came in.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequently, she filed a violation of the protective order or the no contact order, saying you had no right to be in her place of business, causing a scene, calling her a name, doing whatever. You had no right to even be there. Based upon that violation of going to her store, you were arrested.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what you're complaining about, because you say that subsequently you pled guilty to an assault that happened in May, and she was given a permanent no-contact order?
12 months.
12 months. That you agree that she was entitled to, and you agreed to stay away from her and behave yourself for 12 months, and if after that 12-month period there is no contact, the case will be dismissed against you.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
And what you're complaining about is that you say she should not have had you arrested for going into the store after court on June 29th, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You have 1 minute to explain to me why it was necessary, right after you went to court on a charge of assault, which you subsequently pled guilty to, that you found it necessary to go to her place of business, a place of business where she was employed for a year. Explain it to me, Ms. Harris.
When the warrant was issued, I was never
Don't tell me warrant.
Okay.
Just tell me why the day that you went to court on a charge of assault, an assault that you pled guilty to, you found it necessary to go to the store where she worked for anything.
Well, Your Honor, I have here where I had been in that store several times previous and there was no problems.
I'm not talking about previous. I'm talking about the day you went to court for assaulting her. I mean, you weren't going there to get penicillin. You explained to me why you found it imperative to go to that store on that day.
Because, Your Honor, we live in a small town. The store where Stacy works is the only store that is open that time of morning. I called, as I did on these other occasions.
Just a second. Let me stop you right there. What time in the morning did you go over?
It was about 10 o'clock, 10:15.
Really? What time had you gone to court that day?
It was 10.
So you're telling me 15 minutes after you left court, you went to the store?
I went directly after.
Immediately after?
Yes, ma'am.
You left court?
Yes, ma'am.
You decided to go to the store where she works?
No, actually, I had...
That's what you just told me. You told me you went to court at 10, and at that time in the morning...
Yes, ma'am.
At that time in the morning, there's no other store open, and you needed flowers, so immediately from the courthouse, you went to the store where she worked?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
You got a problem, Miss Harris. You got a problem with me. There are other places you could have gone to get something for your sick friend, and if you couldn't get flowers anywhere else, and if you didn't want to go pick them yourself, buy her a box of candy. But you don't go to the same venue where you had previously assaulted the defendant, because you pled guilty to that assault, to buy your sick friend flowers. That's outrageous. And then suing her for having you falsely arrested. She had every right to have you arrested. And she didn't even have you arrested on that day. She waited, but evidently other things happened between that date in June and the date she ultimately complained about the conduct, because you clearly are not satisfied and not happy with your son's choice of mates. And finally she said, I've had enough. I'm going to complain about it. You have no case, and I suggest you start behaving yourself. Now, let me get to your counterclaim. Let me hear it.
Mrs. Harris over here, she's ever since the incident in May, she's done nothing but try to torment me, try to get us kicked out.
Get the specifics.
Okay, I have here where she sent Mr. Jeffries here at voicemail saying that if I came to my apartment, that she would make our life hell. And Steve can
Was it your voicemail?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Step up. What did your mother say on the voicemail?
Basically, if she came back to the apartment where she was staying.
She was staying with you?
Yes, she was at the time.
No, she was not.
Shh.
That she would, quote, stomp her and watch my mom go to jail.
Well, whose apartment was it?
It's my apartment. She lives upstairs.
Okay, and you don't live together now?
Not now, no.
Did you then?
Yes, we did.
How come you don't anymore?
Excuse me?
How come you don't anymore?
Because she called the landlord and explained everything that was going on. The landlord told me if Miss Showers didn't drop the warrant, that we both had to leave.
Didn't drop what warrant? The no contact
Well, yes,
warrant
I'm
on
sorry.
your mother?
No contact, yes.
How long has it been since you haven't gotten along with your mother?
Probably May.
What happened in May?
I backed into Miss Showers' car. She took my truck to work.
Yes.
And that started the May incident of her coming into her place of work.
Why? What is your mother's business that she took your truck?
It's not, Your Honor.
Is that what happened?
Well, Your Honor, there's been a history of 2 years of problems between Stacy and my son, where Stephen has come and talked to me about Stacy running around on him, leaving the apartment for 2 days and disappearing. I was brought into their business.
By your son? No, your son was
by my son. Yes.
Your son was confiding in you.
Right, yes.
That he was troubled.
Yes, yes. And? Stephen at one point expressed to me that they were in an apartment together. He was wanting to put Stacy out but couldn't afford the apartment on his own. I live in a very inexpensive place to live, asked me to try to give him a place in my building. Apartment came available. I went to Stephen and asked if he wanted that apartment because he knew the relationship was shaky.
Fine. You asked him if he wanted the apartment. And he was living with her at the time.
Right.
Go ahead.
After they moved in,
the two of them moved, just a second.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
the two of them moved in together.
Yes, ma'am. In October, where it brought to where I was seeing with my own 2 eyes of Stacy's actions. The truck incident was basically the icing on the cake. Stephen did put Stacy out right after Christmas of last year.
Talk to me about the truck incident. He says that she had permission to take his truck. He didn't care that she took the truck.
That is correct.
So what was it your business?
Well, because Stephen was having to take off time from work for her to go, and Stephen had owed me money. She works a mile from where they were staying. My viewpoint was, you can't afford to be taking off time from work. You owe me this money.
So why didn't you have a discussion with him instead of her?
I did.
And you got no satisfaction?
He said that he was going to take care of it. Stephen has
so
a
then
habit.
What prompted you to go to her place of business?
To basically let her know that she might be fooling him, but she wasn't fooling me.
Miss Harris, you better get your priorities in order, and you better get your position in your son's life straight. What he does with his fiancée is none of your business. And if he chooses to confide in you as a parent, he's not asking you to do anything. He's just asking you to be a sounding board and to give him advice. He's not asking you to be a mediator. He's not asking you to get in between he and his fiancée. It's a very bad place to be, Miss Harris. Listen, she's bothering you. She's annoying you. That's not something that you come to court and you're compensated for. Do you understand?
Right.
But you have absolutely no case against her. None. Your case is dismissed.
Why is that excuse you may step out?
She has a very bad reputation in town.
She's just so hateful. She'll say anything.
I've seen her with other men. She's had men down in my son's apartment.
I mean, as far as being with anybody, I can count the people I've been with on one hand more than probably, I could say for her.
I guess nobody's ever going to be good enough.
Not to be blunt, but everybody in town has had her, so no, I don't think she is.
Actually, she's told Steve that if we ever got married, she wouldn't be there, and then if we ever had kids, she wouldn't have nothing to do with them.
His relationship with her will be his. If he wants a relationship with me, then we'll have to have a separate relationship.
I guess she's upset that she lost her case. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's anger talking. I'm not sure.
22-year-old business owner William Joe Schwartfeger is suing his ex-girlfriend's father, truck driver Warren Day, for a false restraining order. Warren says he was trying to keep William away from his 16-year-old daughter, and he is countersuing for his legal fees.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. Now this is case number 70 on the calendar in the matter of Schwartfeger versus Day. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Schwartfeger?
That's correct.
How old are you, sir?
22.
Bert, I want you to pay careful attention. We're going to go over this scorecard so that you know who the players are in this case.
Gotcha.
Because I have a feeling it's going to be interesting. Who is this young lady?
That is my girlfriend, Sarah Buckley.
What does she have to do with this case?
She is a witness to the harassment, the vandalism to my vehicle, and she's also known the defendant and his daughters for about 5 to 6 years.
How long have you been his girlfriend?
Since November.
So a short-term girlfriend?
Yes.
Mr. Day, these are your 2 daughters.
That's correct.
Your name is?
Samantha.
How old are you, Samantha?
17.
And your name?
Kathleen.
How old are you, Kathleen?
22.
Kathleen, why don't you stand up next to your dad for a minute? Because we're going to get this whole scenario down here. Kathleen, you used to be his girlfriend, is that right?
Yes.
For how long were you his girlfriend?
Almost 4 years.
You have children with him?
2.
How old are your 2 children?
One just turned 3 and one's about 18 months.
Did you live together for a period of time?
Yeah.
For how long?
About 3 of those 4 years.
And how old were you when you started to live with him?
18.
Now you can sit down.
Thank you.
I may come back to you, but right now you can sit. This is what your lawsuit's about, William. According to you, you were being a good Samaritan. And at some point, you took in Mr. Day's younger daughter
That's correct.
into your home because you say she was having some trouble with her dad.
Both parents, Your Honor.
Both parents.
Yes.
Now, at the time that you took her into your house, were you still living with Kathleen?
No, I wasn't.
So Kathleen wasn't living with you anymore with your 2 children. She had left you. You had parted ways.
Right.
But Samantha came to live with you, and at that time, Samantha was 16.
That's right.
Mr. Day didn't like that.
Not at all, ma'am.
You didn't like what happened with your first daughter,
That's correct.
and you for sure didn't like what happened with your second daughter.
That's very correct.
So what did you do, Mr. Day?
Well, Mr. Shortfigure hit Samantha in the mouth.
After she was living with him?
Yes.
Okay, let's stop there for a moment. What date did your daughter leave your home?
April 13th.
Of 2003?
Yes. It wasn't my home. She was still with her mother at that time.
You and her mother are separated?
Yes.
In any event, this is what your lawsuit is about, William. The lawsuit says that Mr. Day filed false charges against you for child endangerment, protective orders, causing you to have to hire an attorney, legal fees, and everything that he said about you was false, and you want to be compensated to the tune of $1,954.
That's correct.
Mr. Day, just for good measure, says, well, he wants some money too because you caused him to lose work and attorney's fees because he had to hire an attorney in order to get certain orders reinstated. He wants some money. I think most of what he wants is satisfaction.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, William, tell me about when Kathleen left your house with your 2 children.
We were living together until December of 2002, I believe.
And how old were your children at that point?
The one was 3 months, and the other one was a little over 2 years old. Or, I'm sorry, she had not turned 2 yet.
And why did she leave?
We were having problems in our relationship. We've had an on and off relationship for the last 4.5 to 5 years, so...
It was during the odd periods that you had these children?
Yeah.
Was it an amicable breakup?
Pretty much.
And you continue to see the children?
Yes, on a regular basis.
And you continue to support the children?
That's right. I pay child support every week.
For both children?
That's right.
Okay. And where did Kathleen go when she left?
Actually, she stayed in the apartment that we shared.
And you left?
That's right.
So far, is that correct, Kathleen?
No.
Well, why don't you come up here and tell me what happened? Because this is all very important as far as Mr. Day's state of mind when he filed his complaints. When did you and William separate?
December of 2002.
Under what circumstances?
He was sleeping with my sister.
And how did you find that out, Kathleen?
I found notes.
Did you keep the notes?
My mom has them right now.
You get along with your mother?
Yeah.
Should have brought the notes to court.
I know, she won't give them to me. She said it's an embarrassment to our children.
What did the notes say? First of all, who wrote the notes?
He did.
Remember what they said?
It said Samantha down the side. It said sexy, amazing, mind-blowing, awesome, naughty, terrific, hot, and a dream come true.
Did you confront William with the note?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said they wrote it as a joke, together.
And when was that?
About 2 weeks before Christmas, December 2002.
You remember that conversation, William?
Yes, I do.
So you told Kathleen, the mother of your 2 children, that the note that you wrote that talked about sexy, naughty, etc., with regard to her sister, her 16-year-old sister, was just joking around.
Well, I write a lot of poetry. And that
Joking around.
Yeah.
That's what you told her.
Yeah, I said we wrote it together. Yes.
Oh. Shh, please. You left.
I left for the day, but I stayed in the apartment. I asked him to leave.
And did he leave?
He left after a few days.
And that was in December?
That's correct.
When did Samantha come to live with you, sir?
In April of 2003.
And where were you living at the time?
I just got an apartment, and I had an extra bedroom, so I figured, you know.
How did Samantha know that you had an extra bedroom?
Well, we stayed in contact. Kathleen and I weren't talking at the time, so I used Samantha as a mediator to, you know, see my children and to make sure that they were doing okay.
You said you saw your children regularly, so what do you mean you needed a mediator?
Well, At first, the visitation wasn't every weekend like it is now. Like I said, Kathleen and I weren't on speaking terms at that time.
You weren't on speaking terms because she believed that you were having intimate relations with a 16-year-old sister. That a fair statement?
Yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. William Joe Schwartfager says his ex-girlfriend's father, Warren Day, owes for attorney fees and harassment. Warren says after William broke up with Kathleen, he had an affair with her 16-year-old sister.
Now tell me what Mr. Day did with regard to his 16-year-old daughter moving in with you.
Nothing at first. Samantha and Mr. Day weren't on speaking terms when it first happened.
She was living with her mother.
That's right, and she was having problems with her mother. She was, living in and out of her friend's house, running away from her house, not going to school, stuff like that.
Between December and April, did you see Samantha?
We met up a couple times.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
How many times would you estimate you saw Samantha?
About once a week, maybe.
Could it have been twice a week?
It wasn't like everyday basis that she was over at where I was at, but...
I didn't say every day, William. You said once a week. And what I said to you is, could it have been twice a week?
Yeah, it might have been a couple weeks that she came over more than once, yes.
And when she would come over, would she stay for an hour or two?
She'd stay for a couple hours.
And what would you do when she came over?
We'd hang out with the kids, talk about when the next time I get to see them, where we were going to meet to get the kids and everything else. So.
When did Mr. Day file the first of his protective orders?
In July.
You have a copy of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
This paper is also the ruling after the
Just
case.
a second. So he filed a protective order indicating that in July you hit Samantha in the mouth.
That's right.
July 2003, Samantha. Were you living with William at the time?
Yes.
Did he hit you in the mouth?
Yes.
Under what circumstances?
I came home and him and his friends had been drinking and we got into an argument. At that time, we went into the bedroom. He took me into the bedroom. His friends stayed in the other room and one thing led to another. He actually picked me up, threw me into the table, and that's how I busted my lip open.
So he didn't hit you in the mouth. He picked you up and threw you into a table, which caused you to hurt your lip. And what did you do in July when he did that to you?
Well, we kept fighting. He actually left. I called my friends to come get me because he took my keys and threw them in the dumpster. And he came back and he was being very rude to my friends, and then I left. And then 2 days later, I think, is when they actually filed the protection order.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living with Joe, but I was staying with my friend Stephanie after we got in an argument.
So you were living with him?
Yes.
What kind of an apartment did he have?
It was a 2-bedroom apartment.
Who else lived there?
Just me and him.
Did you have your own bedroom?
No.
Did you share the bedroom with him?
Yes.
For how long?
Ever since we moved in. We actually got the apartment together. He didn't have it when we're together.
You went to court in August of 2003. Do you remember going to court in August of 2003? Yes. Did the judge ask you any questions?
Yes.
Why did you lie to the judge?
Because I thought that I was in love and I was scared. He told me what to say and I said what he said to say.
Had you gone back to him at the time?
We were on a restraining order, so we couldn't see each other, but yeah, we were still together.
Were you speaking to him?
Not during the protection order.
Did you tell your father that you were going to not tell the truth when the judge asked you questions?
Yes.
What did he say?
Not much. He told me I better tell the truth.
Is that right, sir?
That is correct, ma'am.
When your 16-year-old daughter got to court, you didn't tell the truth. Is that right?
That's correct.
And this, William, is what you're really suing over. This case that was dismissed.
Yeah, that's part of the lawsuit, yes.
Tell me what the other part is.
In February, he filed another protective order against me. Samantha had moved out in late October, and I didn't understand why it was...
So she came back to you after this original protective order, and she moved out again in late October?
That's right. She moved back into my house probably about a month after the case, and then she quit her job, stopped going to school, and those were, I told her if she was going to live with me, she had to keep her job, go to school. And then later on, my car got vandalized.
Who do you think vandalized your car, sir?
Samantha. We do have audio tapes that were gone over by the county attorney.
Don't tell me what audio tapes were gone over by anybody else, sir. That's hearsay.
Okay.
Do you have any witness to Samantha vandalizing your car?
Samantha's older sister, Kathleen, she was the one that actually told me that it was Samantha that vandalized
my car.
No.
What did you say to him?
I said it wasn't my brother,
and it wasn't my sister.
Well, I don't know.
There's a
what
lot
you
of people that hate you, so.
I can think of 3 right there. Maybe 4. William, I'm going to tell you a word that you probably don't know. Interestingly enough, Officer Byrd knows this word, because when I say the word, he's going to understand, as will a lot of other people, because I'm going to explain the word to you. The word, William, is chutzpah. Do you know what chutzpah means, Byrd?
Sure.
Chutzpah means nerve. You got a lot of nerve to put on a suit and tie, bring your girlfriend into a court to sue this man after you made 2 babies with one of his children irresponsibly. Now, you're only partially responsible for that, but you're half responsible for that. And then his daughter finds out that you're messing around with her 16-year-old sister, and she leaves you. Or you leave. She tells you to leave. And then you invite her 16-year-old sister to move into your house, the 2 sisters, like you live in Utah. And then you have the chutzpah to sue him as a parent for getting angry with you because his daughter tells him, not only am I sleeping with him, but he picked me up, he got angry when he was drinking, threw me against the table and split my lip. You have a daughter, sir?
Yes, I got 2 daughters.
All right. You have 2 daughters?
3.
3?
Yes.
Who's the 3rd?
My oldest daughter, she's 7, but she's not by the day.
And how old are you, 22?
That's right.
You better get a lock for it.
That's already been fixed now.
William, I don't want to look at you for another second. Your case is dismissed. Mr. Day, have you gotten the satisfaction that you wanted?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't need a counterclaim, do you?
No, I don't really know.
Very good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's been hard. It's been hard for me not to do something else besides go to court on it. It really has.
I was just trying to get the attorney bills that Mr. Day has racked up on my behalf, cleared up.
This man has been like a dingleberry on my butt.
It didn't destroy any credibility. It's another day.
He doesn't think about other people's feelings, how he hurt me, how he hurt her, and how he's probably going to hurt Sarah, too.
She was like a little sister to me the whole time.
You can talk the panties off a nun.
The girl that's with him right now, Sarah Buckley,
Is my best friend.
and used to live in my house as my 3rd, adopted daughter.
So he's on the 3rd one now.
Yeah.
We're actually a lot closer than we were, and we just really hate him now.
Everybody makes mistakes. Yeah, this is her freebie. If she does it again, then it's done.
And now the next case. 21-year-old student Nikki Gajowski is suing her former tenant, 22-year-old waitress Patricia Carlson, for unpaid rent and damage to her apartment. Patricia is countersuing for damages resulting from a wrongful eviction.
This is case number 95 on the calendar in the matter of Gajowski versus Carlson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Kachowski, you sublet your apartment to the defendant, and you claim that she moved out, she owes rent, and she damaged the apartment. You want her to be responsible. Ms. Carlson said she was just a few days late in paying her rent in March, and you evicted her. You told her she had to get out. You locked her out, and she is counterclaiming for all kinds of things due to this wrongful eviction. Okay, were you friends before this sublet?
Yes.
How long was your lease?
My lease started March 27, 2003, and it ended April 30th of 2004.
And when did you sublet the apartment to Ms. Carlson?
October 1st of 2003.
And did you sign a written document with her of sublet?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it?
Notarized.
So I gather what you wanted, Ms. Carlson, was once this sublet was over, because this agreement is a lease.
Yeah.
And it is a lease for you to live there until the end of her lease.
Yes.
Unless, of course, you could get the lease put in your name, which is, I assume, what you wanted.
Yeah.
So that you would be the primary tenant.
Yes, of course.
That never happened.
No.
Well, you were late in your rent in March. What was the rent?
$520.
Why were you late?
I had to work, so I didn't pay rent. I was like a couple days late. I went to the office. I told him.
No. I don't know what that means. I mean, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Do your parents buy this baloney when you ask a question, you get double talk? I said, why didn't you pay rent? And you said, because I have to work.
I didn't. I was late.
And so there was no reason. Okay. How late were you? Couple of days. Couple of days is 2. Are we talking about March 2nd?
Rent was due from the 1st to the 5th. I went up to the office around the 13th.
Okay. So that you weren't a couple of days late, you were 2 weeks late in the rent.
Mm-hmm.
It's due on the 1st. You have a grace period until the 5th, but you didn't bother to show up until the 13th. Why?
I was working.
Everybody works.
I was doing doubles. It was a month time that employees had to work double shifts.
Sounds to me if you're working double shifts, you're making twice as much money.
Yeah, but we worked like to all hours of the night. I would come home at like 5 in the morning. And I would have to leave at 9 to get to work by like 10:30.
All you have to do is put your check in an envelope. My dear, so you're working double shifts means you're making a lot of money. Should have had money to pay your rent, $500. There's no excuse.
I understand that.
Okay, oh, fine. So that you breached your lease.
Yeah.
And you got a call, I gather, and as a result of that call, you changed the locks on the apartment. When did you change the locks on the apartment?
I got a call around the 11th. And I tried calling Tricia several times. I left messages. I said, I want to know what's going on. Do you need me to help you? She never returned my phone call, never paid the rent. So then I went in and I changed the locks and I left her a message. I said, look, I changed the locks. Either please go pay the rent with a late fee or, get a U-Haul and move out. I did give her about 3 days. Okay. That was my last resort.
Fine. So you want her to pay the rent that she owes for March, $520, and the rent that she owes for April.
And a late fee of $37.65 or something.
Okay. Now, you also wanted to pay for some damage. What kind of damage?
Well, I had a pet when I lived there. I paid a deposit, and he did cause some damage. I do have a bill here of what I paid out of my pocket. I don't expect the whole deposit back, but she did get a dog without my permission, a puppy.
Then let's not play. Okay.
Well, the damage is people vandalized the door. They stuck condoms all over the door, and they sprayed it with a fire extinguisher. She had a little ashtray outside the door. Plus, when she left, there were cigarette burns in the carpet, and I had to clean the entire apartment. And out of the $200, they charged me $140.
Okay, not a big deal.
Yeah.
Not the 2 months' rent that you want, which is $1,040. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you have a counterclaim. I'll hear you.
Can I speak on what she's referring to of damages and stuff?
If you want to. I'm not really seriously
I was dog sitting. The dog stayed in a crate. Didn't go out whatsoever. Took it to doggy daycare so that I knew it would be in safe hands when I was at work. So it didn't do as much as damages than she expected.
She's not talking about a lot of money.
Okay, I understand that. But the condoms and the fire extinguisher blown at the door were under resort of her friends. She had an ex-boyfriend would come over late night. They would knock on the door. Came in one time, woke me up because he's...
I'm not considering damages to the door. I'm not, quite frankly, interested in condoms on the door and writing on the door. I'm not interested. You're talking about $100. She's going to deal with it. She wants $1,040 for the months of March and April, and you want her to pay you $700-800 because she wrongfully evicted you. So let me hear your case.
Countersuing for lost wages.
What lost
wages of when she made me move out. I have received a call at work. I have time cards. I have a statement. Everything that day, she said, you have to leave. I went up to the office on the 13th to tell them that I'm moving out. I'm willing to pay rent and stuff. They called her to let her know. She freaked out, changed locks on me, called me at my work on my cell phone, told me that you better get your crap out. You'll have 15 minutes and police supervision. So I freaked out. I have to go get my stuff. This is the stuff I've been earning since I was 17. So I'm not going to let it be gone. I'm not going to let it disappear.
I absolutely agree with you.
Your Honor. Shh. Sorry. And that's lost wages, punitive damages, and emotional distress. I've known this girl forever. Known her for a long time. She put me through a lot of stuff. I'm a great friend, okay? I will be there for you any time of the week, any day of the month, whatever. She would call me certain occasions, and it just stressed me out, freaked me out.
Shh, listen to me. I'm not your therapist.
Oh, I understand that.
I'm not your therapist. I want to know what your counterclaim is for. You can't tell me it's for emotional distress because I'm a better friend than she is. We don't maintain a whole judicial system to hear that kind of nonsense.
I understand.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Gajowski says former tenant Patricia Carlson owes for rent and damage to her apartment. Patricia says Nikki kicked her out, so she's not paying.
So tell me what you want.
I want money back from moving abruptly, going to get a U-Haul to move my stuff. I had to pay some people to move. I had to pay people to let me live in their house because I was living on the streets. You know, I didn't know where to go.
Where does your family live?
Probably about a half an hour to an hour away.
Don't they like you?
We get along once in a while.
So temporarily, instead of living in the street, why couldn't you go and live with your family?
Because my car, it's not that mobile. I have to go back to work, and I don't want to go back to work an
So
hour
are
and
you
a half.
living at the street right near your job?
Do what now?
Were you living in the street right near your job?
No.
You picked another street?
No, I had to inconvenience another friend to let me move in.
You said you were living in the street.
So basically, I could have been living on the street.
No, that's not what you said. You said I was living on the street. I just wanted to know which street you were living on, or whether I was getting high theater here. Listen, you did the wrong thing. You sublet an apartment and you blew off your rent. And she tried to call you a couple of times. You didn't respond to her call because you were very busy working 2 shifts and you didn't have time to take a check, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and put it in the mailbox. Wrong. Grow up. Be a big girl. You signed a lease. Your lease was to pay the rent at the appropriate time. You didn't do that. She may have been a little overzealous when she said, listen, you got to get your stuff out of there in 15 minutes, if that's in fact what she said. Bottom line is, she wasn't going to support you while you were paying rent. That's unreasonable. Pay the money you owe it, $1,040. Judgment for the plaintiff, your counterclaim's dismissed.
Excuse me, step out.
She became vain. I don't know what she's talking about being vain. Her just being totally into herself. You know, I'm not all about that stuff. Don't care about other people other than her. This is a girl that needs to grow up, and I can do that. Get a life. I don't know. I'm not going to be into that drama anymore and quit living the trashy life that she's living. Vain as hell.
Utico versus Corona. Step forward.
Accountant Michelle Utico is suing her ex-boyfriend, plumber Stephen Corona, for ramming her Toyota 4Runner with his truck. Stephen claims Michelle is making up a story.
Miss Utico, this gentleman used to be your boyfriend, and according to your complaint, he got angry with you one evening and he intentionally damaged your truck. And Mr. Corona says that while he was angry that evening, he didn't do anything to your car, right?
That's correct.
Tell me when Mr. Corona damaged your car.
That evening, after I dropped him off at home.
What evening?
May 21st a.m., May 20th, midnight.
And where had you been?
We were first at my house, and we got into an argument, and then I dropped him off at his house.
What did you get into an argument about?
Just general things, what couples normally get in arguments about.
I usually get into an argument with my husband about how many pairs of shoes I bring home.
Okay.
So what were you arguing about?
You know, I don't recall what the argument was about, but we got into one, and I dropped him off at home like he wanted to go. He wanted to leave, so I took him home.
What time?
It's probably about 10 or 11 at night.
And where did you go when you dropped him off?
I went over to his house.
What's his name?
This is my friend Frank. And I was there with a couple of friends. We were sitting on the front porch, and then that's when he showed up.
And Mr. Corona, you acknowledged that you came looking for her.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And what happened when he came looking for you?
Well, he had asked for me to get into my truck and go home. So let's go home.
When he told you to get into your truck and let's go home, was he in his car or out of his car?
He was out of his car at the time. He parked next to my car on the street, and he got off of his car and pretty much demanding for me to leave. And with the look in his eyes pretty much looked violent, and I did not want to go, so I didn't.
He told you to get in the car and go home?
Yeah.
And what did you say to him?
Well, I was going to go, but then I turned around and I said, no, I'm not going.
What did you say to him?
I didn't say anything to him.
When he said get in the car, did you tell him okay?
Yeah, I said okay. Yeah,
well, that's what I'm asking you. That's what I'm asking. It's not a hard question. Okay. I'm just trying to follow the events. What happened starting from once upon a time and ending with the end. So he got out of his car and he said, get in the car, I want you to go home. He says he acknowledges he said that to you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said, okay.
Right.
And he says that that's what you said. You said you would follow him, right?
She said she was going to go home to meet her there.
But then you decided not to go home.
Yes, I decided not to go home.
So you turned around and you said to your friend,
Right.
Frank.
Correct.
Frank, could you sit up, please? Good. Thank you, Frank. You said to Frank and his friends, I'm not going with him.
That's correct.
And you went back to the porch.
Right.
So far, your stories are exactly the same. But here's where we come to a fork in the road.
Right.
What happened next, Miss Utico?
Well, he got upset. He got into his car and he wrecked into my car, which was not good enough for him. So he sped off and made a U-turn and came back around and wrecked even more into my car. And then
what do you mean wrecked? I don't know.
He wrecked his car into my car.
You mean he hit his car into your truck?
Yes, he hit his car into mine. So.
And he did that twice?
He did it twice.
Mr. Corona?
Yes, ma'am.
I read your answer, and you flatly deny that this is the way it happened. So I have a few questions for you. Mr. Corona.
Yes.
What did you have an argument with Miss Utico about that evening?
We were arguing about her staying home and her wanting to go out. And I was trying to get her to stay home, but she insisted on leaving. She told me that she had to get up to go to work in the morning. That's why she wanted to drop me off, because usually I stay the night there. And it was kind of odd that she wanted me to go home, because she actually picked me up, and usually I drive over there, but she picked me up earlier, and then she dropped me off. You know, she insisted on dropping me off.
I don't... Excuse me, ma'am.
So, you cared about her a lot?
Sure. Very much so.
You the jealous type?
No, but I...
A little bit?
Sure, isn't everybody?
I don't know. Depends upon if you've got something to be jealous about. So let me understand this, Mr. Corona. Your girlfriend tells you she's got to get up early in the morning and she drives you home.
That's what she said.
You've got something in the back of your head that says, what's your first name?
Steve.
Steve. Steve, something's not kosher here. Because I usually spend the night, so I'm going to get into my car and go and look for her. Right? That's what you did.
Exactly.
And you're driving around, and something said, why don't you go over to old Frank's house? So you had the feeling maybe she was over there fooling around with Frank, right?
Possibly.
Well, you were going to give it a look-see anyway, right?
Sure.
I mean, is that what happened? Sure, that's where your car ended up.
Sure.
And then, sure enough, your girlfriend of a year and a half who had to get up early to go out to do something the next day, there she was, sitting, chilling with Frank on the porch. And you double-parked your car next to hers.
Exactly next to hers on the side, parallel.
And you got out of the car and you said, I want you to get into the car and come home with me. Right?
And she said
and
yes.
She said
yes.
Yes.
She said, I'm going to follow you. I'll meet you at my house.
I'm going to follow you home. I'm going to meet you home. And then she didn't.
That's right.
And then, according to your answer, you went home and went to sleep.
That's right.
That's wrong.
First, before I went home, I went to her house and I waited in the front for her at her house.
Just a second. So you actually followed her direction and you went home.
Yeah. No.
How long did you sit in your car in front of her house waiting for her?
About 20 minutes.
Until he broke into my house.
Don't speak. 20 minutes?
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes. And while you were waiting this 20 minutes, did you start to get upset?
No.
You started to get, just a second, you started to get, if you weren't upset, did you start to get hungry?
I was.
Did you start to get hungry? Tired?
Yeah, tired, yes.
So you were tired?
Yes, I was tired.
And you said, forget it.
Exactly.
She made a fool out of me.
I'm done with it.
I'm finished with her.
That's right.
She made a real fool out of me this time because she made a fool out of me earlier in the evening when she drove me home. And she was maybe going to have somebody else come and stay over, but it wasn't going to be me that night. And now I went over there and made a fool out of myself in front of other people. And she made a bigger fool out of me, so you went home and went to sleep.
I threw in the towel.
Could I see the pictures of the car, please? You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. Well, you made the report the very next day. Right. What happened? Did they ever come to see you, Mr. Corona? The police?
No, ma'am.
They never came to see you?
No, ma'am.
You live in Los Angeles?
Yes.
They're probably real busy. Mr. Corona, I'm going to ask a question, but you don't even have to answer, Mr. Corona. I want you to look at my face. It's a nice face, right? You wouldn't lie to this face, Mr. Corona, would you? So I don't even want you to answer me, sir. Did it feel good? Did it feel good? It's going to cost you $2,284.56. I hope it felt that good. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 230 on the calendar. Bear with me. In the matter of Greco-Reese versus Haspatka.
Who's Haspatka?
Me.
Good, go.
Heinlein, Hamilton, and Archieweski. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
You see, when you're in charge, you could take certain license. So let me show you what I'm going to do. That's
Okay.
Mr. A, B, C, and D.
I wish I could have done that.
Where is your rental property?
Omaha, Nebraska.
And you rent this house to college students.
Well, I just rent it. It just happens to be college students that always.
You've rented to college students before,
yeah.
so you rent to college students.
Yeah.
You have any dislike for this property? You hate this property?
This is the first time I've ever had any trouble.
Did you always rent to girls in the past?
No.
You rented to boys? Mm-hmm. Never had any trouble?
No.
Miraculous. How big is this house that you rented, Mr. A?
It's a split entry, 4-bedroom. I don't know the square footage.
And what was the rent on the house?
I believe it was $950, split 4 ways.
And when did you start your lease?
August 1st, 2003.
Name of the university you attended?
University of Nebraska at Omaha.
What year are you in?
4th year, senior.
Senior as well. Senior.
Raise your hand if you're a good golfer.
Is that anybody in here?
No, just you. All right, Ms. Reese, this is the situation. According to your complaint, these 4 young slobs destroyed your house, and in addition to leaving the place a mess, they decided to play golf off the roof of your house at some point and cause substantial damage to your roof.
Yes, ma'am.
So you want them to pay for the repairs.
Yes.
The boys say they didn't have a chance to clean up because you changed the locks on the house, which must have been the month of July, right?
Correct.
End of July, yeah.
End of July.
End of mid-July, right?
Yeah.
Well, end of mid-July.
End to mid-July.
I don't remember the exact date. Sometime after the 20th of July.
So the end of July, she changed the locks.
Yes.
Why do you think she changed the locks, gentlemen?
I don't know. She claims that we abandoned the house, but we did not. We still had property in there.
Did you pay July's rent?
No.
Well, just a minute. Mr. D says yes. You say no. Mr. D, did you pay July's rent?
The security deposit, she took that as last month's rent, is what she told us. She said we didn't have to pay last month's rent. She would keep the security deposit.
Why would anybody in their right mind say that until they inspected the house?
Good question.
Who did she say that to?
On the phone. On July 19th, the day rent was due.
July 19th. And what did you say?
She called me. I was in bed. She woke me up and she said she was talking about rent due today, and I said, yeah, I know. I'm going to bring it down later. And she said, but if you guys, don't pay it, I'll just keep the security deposit as last month's rent.
Is that what you told them?
No, ma'am. There was so much damage in the house that I could have used another 2 months' rent to fix what I fixed in that house.
Listen, Mr. A, maybe it's just that you were groggy. Because what you just told me was that you said to your landlord, I'm going to bring the rent down later on today, and she said, nah, forget it.
She didn't say, nah, forget it. But she left me with the understanding that
that's different.
If we did not pay last month's rent, I don't remember exact words, I'm sorry, this was a long time ago. I was under the understanding when I hung up the phone that if we decided that we didn't want to pay last month's rent, she would keep the security deposit.
Well, maybe you said to her, maybe since you don't remember the exact words, and maybe the impression was left with you because you said to her, I'm not giving you the last month's rent, keep the security deposit. Because then, that was on the 19th, sir?
Yes.
When did she change the locks on the house?
Like I said, sometime after the 20th. It was
that would have been, listen to me, listen to me, that would have been the very next day. So that makes sense to me. What makes sense to me is she called you and said, where's the rent? And you said, you're not getting the rent. You keep the security deposit. And then she says, oh, yeah, I'm changing the locks on the house. That makes sense. Not, don't come down and pay me the rent. I'll keep the security deposit for the last month. And then she goes in and changes the locks. That doesn't make sense. Okay, now, what I would like to see from you is photographs of the house if you have it.
Got those here.
And after I look at the photographs of the house, I would like to hear from your witness, if any. I assume that this is your witness, who's going to tell me something about these golf balls being hit off the roof, which A, B, and C deny. And D. Forgot about you. Sorry. Well, something's going on up there. Do you have major hailstorms?
No.
Nebraska?
Not that year.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, we did.
Major hailstorms?
Not that time.
You're
No.
kidding me.
It was probably the worst year for hail we've had in quite a while, actually.
Really? And you think that the hailstorms did this damage to the roof?
I don't know what the damage looks like, but
Well, I'm going to show it to you. You can bring this over and share it with A through D.
Pass them down, boys.
Your Honor.
I assume since you didn't see the damage and you don't know anything about the
I
damage.
do know one thing.
Yes.
I found out today that they had a fifth person living in my house because the man that came to help
Mr.
the last D,
Mr.
to
D.
help D move out, was the one that told my new renters what they did. And it started at July 4th.
Just a second. You're the new renter?
That's correct.
Tell me your name.
Robert Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, when did you meet these gentlemen, if at all?
I believe it was either the 25th or shortly after the 25th of July.
And where did you meet them?
At the home.
What were they doing there?
They were removing their belongings.
Did you have a conversation with any of these gentlemen?
Yes, I had a conversation with a close friend of the defendants. He said to me...
Just a second. What was his name?
You know, I don't recall at this time. I'm kind of flustered with names. I don't recall names very well. I'm more of a face person.
I can't take your testimony. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
This is a court. Court, we take evidence, Miss Reese. If this young man had had a conversation with one of these defendants, then certainly he could have testified if any of them made an admission to him. But you want me to take his testimony about somebody whose name he doesn't know, who's not present today, and that's hearsay, okay, to support your case. So I can't do that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Joe Reese says her former tenants, Joel Hespadka, Ronald Heinlein II, Adam Hamilton, and J.J. Archewesky were damage to a rental property. Gail says the house looked like it had never been cleaned.
Okay. Do you have any photographs of the interior of the house, Miss Reese?
Your Honor, I lost, no, I didn't lose them. My sister-in-law did, but I have the letter I sent them with all the things that were wrong with the house. It was the abandonment letter that my attorney told me to write to them.
Whose job was it to clean the bathroom?
kind of a joint effort. Yeah.
Well, nobody, I see nobody raised their hand.
Who was
Okay. Who cleaned the bathrooms?
Usually probably me.
That would be... Because it says here, the bathrooms, and in big letters it says the bathrooms were disgusting. It appears as if it has never been cleaned. Well, based upon the lack of showing of hands, I would say that that's probably true. It's too late. Too late. Holes in the walls in the master bedroom, broken window, broken door frame. Who had the dog? Raise your hand. Dog! Mr. D, Mr. A, what kind of dog did you have?
We had 3 Chihuahuas.
Whose job was it to pick up the poop in the house from the dogs?
Whoever's dog it was.
Everybody pretty much.
And who did it?
We all did.
We all did.
Oh, there was some you missed.
Small dog.
Small dog. It's disgusting. You know, but you know.
Your Honor,
I've had 5 children who all went to college and who all, at one time or another, lived in rental property. And I remember I used to check to see if my inoculations were in order before I went to visit them. And if they would ever ask me, would you like to go visit my friend's house, I would say, no, thank you. They can join us for breakfast at McDonald's. because I don't go to anybody else's mess. Bad enough I have to go and look at your mess.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that you've been very fortunate if you haven't had a mess.
This is the first time I've had it this bad.
I'm not even addressing the golf balls over here because you don't have any proof of that. You don't have any confessions and you don't have any witnesses who saw them hitting golf balls off the roof. And I'm not going to get any admissions from these guys because nobody even wants to admit who did the bathroom. Aside from the roof, let me see estimates of the damage to the house.
I didn't have them because I just wrote everything down when I sent them in that abandonment letter.
Yeah, well, that's not
and
good
enough. At the time of the lease, when they signed the lease, they asked if they could have one dog.
I don't care whether they have one dog, they can have one dog, they have 20 dogs. They got to clean up the dog's poop and not leave it in the closet. Listen, they did not pay the last month's rent, and they were there after the 18th of July. Therefore, they owe you the entire month's rent. That's $950. And based upon what I see in your abandonment letter and what they concede about the condition of the house, that they had 2 dogs. I mean, that's not something that you guess at. You didn't guess that they had 2 dogs. You found remnants of the dogs there. I can guarantee you that it cost $900 to fix up the mess that you left in the house. So you owe her $950 for rent and you owe her $950 for cleanup. Well, you've already paid her $950 because that used your security deposit. So, gentlemen, you owe the plaintiff $950. Divvy it up. That's it.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
One of their friends told one of my new renters why the roof was damaged.
Everything on the roof is baloney, if you ask me. We never went on the roof. I don't know where she got that from.
I changed the locks and told them they had to call me when they were ready to get their stuff, that they were not going into the house.
There was stuff that we damaged. She didn't have a chance for us to fix it. I mean, she just changed the locks.
They're seniors in college. I hate to see what they did in high school.
We're 4 college guys. Obviously, there's going to be damages done to the house.
I feel sorry for the ladies that marry him.
In my opinion, she's a pathological liar. Now I understand why she's single.
And 21-year-old student Kaylin Zilmer is suing her ex-roommate, 21-year-old student Jennifer Zemlicka, for breaking an apartment lease. Jennifer says Kaylin's partying made living with her unbearable.
Yeah, this is case number 269 on the calendar in the matter of Zilmer versus Zemlicka. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, huh?
Ms. Zilmer, how long did you room with the defendant while you were in college?
We have lived together for 2 years.
And then, according to your complaint, you recently signed another year's lease.
Right.
And the defendant moved out prior to that second lease starting, leaving you to pay 14 months' rent.
Right.
On your own.
Yep.
The year on the new lease plus 2 months on the old lease. And Ms. Zemlicka says that she absolutely moved out because you invited people to the house, you had underage drinking parties, people either stole her property and or damaged her property. It was really unsafe for her to stay there, and that you should have tried to get a new roommate for the new lease or gone to the landlord, tried to negotiate out of the lease, but she is certainly not responsible. When did you, Ms. Zemlicka, start to have problems with the plaintiff with regard to who she was bringing into the apartment?
The first incident where I began to feel that things were unsafe occurred on January 25th, 2004. During that weekend, I was not present at the apartment. I had gone to my hometown, to my parents' house, and during that weekend, Kaylin Zilmer had several people over, and there was an underage drinking party that occurred.
How did you know that?
I know that because I was told by both the plaintiff and by a mutual acquaintance of mine.
Well, you can't tell me anything about the mutual acquaintance. Did you have a discussion with Ms. Zilmer?
Yes, I did.
About it? Tell me about the discussion.
I came back from my weekend away, and she told me that she had had 2 friends over and that they had been drinking, and that they had been drinking quite profusely. And one of the
she didn't say that. She didn't say they'd been drinking. Listen to me.
Okay,
Ms.
she
Zemlicka,
said that they had been drinking.
Okay, Ms. Zemlicka, don't embellish. If you embellish, I think you're lying, and if you're lying, I'm not interested in hearing you. Do you understand?
Okay. Yes.
All right, that was January 25th. Let's move on.
Your Honor, there was another event that occurred on January 25th that concerned me. Jason was there, and he drank so much that he vomited blood in the bathroom. The paramedics were called. 911 was called. Although all three of them were underage, no tickets were issued.
January 25th, what happened?
I gave no alcohol to this person who came over. Who
was the person?
He brought his own alcohol.
Who was the person?
It's a mutual friend of ours.
And he was drinking so much he got really sick.
You're right. And we did call 911.
Okay. Fine. What's happened next?
After January 25th, although the incident worried me, I figured it was a one-time event.
Let's get on.
Okay. Sorry.
I have other things to do today.
During the week of April 26, 2004 to May 2nd, 2004, Kaylin had a friend staying at the apartment for the duration of the week. And during this entire week, my room door was closed. I would come home at the end of the day. Things would be rearranged. I was accused of things I didn't do. I would get up in the morning, leave to go to my student teaching assignment, and I would come back at the end of the day, and Kaylin's guest would say to me, well, what the hell were you doing? Why were you slamming doors this morning? I wasn't slamming doors.
Okay. Next. Move on.
Next. She had an underage drinking party on May 1st, 2004. During this underage drinking party, chairs belonging to me were broken. A fight occurred that I was told about by both Kaylin and Mindy.
Okay, so you weren't happy. When did you move out?
On or around June 14th, 2004.
When had you signed a new lease?
In the middle of March.
So March you signed the new lease, and when was the term of that lease?
The term of that lease was set to begin on August 15th, 2004.
And you moved out in June?
Correct.
Why didn't you get a new roommate?
Ms. Zemlica had left a note for me the last day she moved out saying she'd be back in August.
Can I see it, please?
And aside from that note, no.
Home for the summer, back on Sunday for the rest of my stuff, back for good in August. When did you write this note?
When I left in June.
Well, if you left in June, were you intending to come back?
At that point I was, because I had not yet talked to my lawyer.
You see, Ms. Zemlica, if you were moving out for cause and you wrote her a note and say, I no longer consider it safe here, please try to get a new roommate in June or in May, because a lot of these things happened in May, I would say to the plaintiff, listen, you have an obligation to mitigate your damages. In June, the possibility exists for her to still get another roommate. But if she's holding off because you've assured her that you're coming back in August, that's unreasonable. You were fooling her, right? You're her father?
Yes, I am. Judge.
Sure. You were fooling her. You were saying, I don't know what you can move over. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I want an opportunity to speak to my lawyer, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do. Now, when did you finally tell her that you were not going to move back?
I sent notice.
When?
June 23rd, 2004. I have a copy of the letter right here.
Let me have it. Where's the notification that you sent to the plaintiff?
I did not send notification to the plaintiff.
Why not? June 23rd, you sent notification to the Capitol Center Apartments. Why didn't you send her notice?
I did not send her notification because things had deteriorated so rapidly and so far at that point that I did not feel safe talking to her anymore. I had received...
Nobody asked you to talk to her. What you have to do is send her a notice. And you never did.
I did not. However, my parents were in contact with her parents and did inform her mother that I would not be moving back in.
How do I know that? That's hearsay.
No, Judge, I talked to her mother. I'm Jennifer's father, and I did talk to her mother and said it's no longer capable of being resolved. Kaylin doesn't want to talk to Jennifer. Jennifer does not feel safe there. So there's nothing that can be done except to move out.
Your Honor, my hearsay was that he had talked to my 18-year-old brother, and that my mom actually talked to...
Just a second. They did the wrong thing. You may have done the wrong thing by having these people over that she didn't want over her home when she's not there. You understand that. Mm-hmm. But you have absolutely no right to first send her a letter indicating that you were coming back in August, despite the fact that there had been problems, so you were tricking her. Then you went to see a lawyer. Your lawyer gave you whatever advice the lawyer gave you. As a result of that, you did have the good sense to send a notice to the apartment complex Did you get an answer from the apartment complex?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Let me see the answer.
They did not contact me in writing. They contacted me through a voicemail.
No. That's hearsay. Because if they were going to let you out of the lease so that she was no longer responsible under the terms of that lease, it would have been in writing. And you did not get that. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Kaylin Zillmer says ex-roommate Jennifer Zemlicka owes for breaking their apartment lease. Jennifer says it wasn't a safe place to live.
Your Honor, I was also sent a letter by Kaylin Zillmer claiming that she was responsible for the lease and for the rent because she was still living there. And I received in July.
That would be my half of the rent.
Of course she's still responsible because she's still living there. That doesn't mean you're not responsible. You wouldn't be responsible if you did the right thing. You did the wrong thing.
I believed I needed to move out to protect my own personal safety.
I don't disagree with you. Not for your own personal safety. It had become uncomfortable for you to live there. Put your hand down. It had become uncomfortable for you to live there, and you have an absolute right not to live someplace where you're uncomfortable. You don't have the right to trick her, which you did. You tricked her into thinking that you were coming back at a time when this is, I assume, a college town where people look for apartments up until the end of the school year. You led her to believe that you were, in fact, coming back in August. She did not seek another roommate. You notified the apartment complex of your intention not to come back, but you never notified her. You could have just as soon sent her a copy of the letter. Then you would have put her on notice. Then I would have said, now listen, you have the obligation to mitigate your damages starting in June. You may not be able to find a roommate right away. Maybe she's only liable for 6 months' rent or 3 months' rent until you find a roommate. But you didn't do the right thing. You can't just walk out. Now, who's living in the apartment?
I am, Your Honor.
Who else?
Just me.
What efforts have you made since you were notified that she was not intending to come back to try to find another roommate?
I have been to different websites. I have left up flyers around campus. I have a website too, roommates.com, so I have made efforts to cover her half of the rent.
Just a second. And what's the rent on the apartment?
It's $940 a month.
When were you notified that she was not going to move back to the apartment?
In August.
Are you telling me that you didn't know until August that she wasn't coming back? Is that what you're telling me?
That's right.
Okay. Where do you live?
I live, Kelly Zillmer. I live down the road from Kaylin.
Who do you live with?
I live with 4 other girls.
When did you sign your lease on that place?
Well, we signed the lease in December for the upcoming year starting in August. So our lease started August 15th and runs till August 14th next year.
And if you could find another roommate at your house, you could move in with your sister. Is that right?
Well, there's not many people looking for roommates anymore since college started.
Well, people come in January, do they not?
Yeah.
Sure they do. So we have September, October, November, December, January. That's 5 months, right? She's got to pay you for 5 months. You did not give her adequate notice. You gave her, as a matter of fact, no notice whatsoever of your intention to move. It was only through a third party that she found out that you did not intend to come back. You cannot do that. She's obligated to pay for the rent, and she's the one who's suffering for it because you evidently found another place to live. You're paying nothing, and she's paying for both of you. That's unreasonable. You have a right to move out of the apartment if you feel unsafe. You also have an obligation to give her notice of your intention and not to trick her, which you did. You tricked her, and you can't do that. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,350. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was concern for my personal safety and also concern with the irresponsible acts that were going on, that they might negatively impact my teaching career and my future in the teaching profession.
I am not a big drinker. I do not keep drinks in the house. I have never used drugs, so I don't really know where this all stemmed from.
Some people just aren't compatible when it comes to living together.
I'm just real happy it's over.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Washington versus Shonen, step forward, please.
Salon owner Daniel Washington is suing her former co-worker, manicurist Gianna Shonen, for unpaid booth rent. Daniel says Gianna quit without paying her tab.
Ms. Washington, according to your complaint, you own a beauty salon. The defendant rented a booth from you in that salon. You claim she left owing you rent. Some $300 is what your claim is. And Ms. Showen says that you wanted her out. She left. She owes you nothing. When did Ms. Showen come to you to rent a space?
I believe it was in April or May.
When did she start to rent the space?
I believe April.
And what was the rental agreement?
The rental agreement was every Saturday when she came in, Rent was due $75 on Saturday morning.
$75 a week?
Yes.
Starting when?
In April.
Okay. When was your last day at the salon?
It was the end of July. When I got there, I had 65 clients that moved with me from a previous salon. By the end of the time of the salon, I only had 5 clients left. I have my bank statement stating the money that I had made when I was getting there and how it declined.
Your Honor, she's lying.
My last day at the salon was because I went to go put my booth rent in on a Saturday evening.
She's lying.
She locked me out of the salon. She had changed the keys. I called her that evening. It was very late, and she told me that she locked me out because she hadn't spoke to me.
Okay. Miss Washington, at some point, you boxed up her things. When was that?
The last weekend in July.
Now, what do you claim she owes you rent for?
Booth rental. I have
booth rental. How much?
$300.
From when?
From June the 5th, she never paid booth rent. June the 12th, she never paid rent.
Okay.
June the 19th, I went out of town. She told me that morning, I'm going to come in and pay the manager. Don't worry about it.
Keep going.
June the 26th, she never paid rent again. She would show up and do clients, and we allowed her to do clients because she was thinking that we gave her a 5-day notice. She was not on commission at that time. She's lying.
I don't know what commission is as opposed to booth rent.
Booth rent is you pay a flat fee every week. Commission is you pay out of everything you make.
So between the 5th of June and the 26th of June, how much money did you give her?
Your Honor, I was on commission during that time. When she took me off of commission,
I didn't take
she
her
took me off of commission. She told me she could not afford to have me on commission in her salon. In June, I was paying her cash. I was paying her cash.
Can you show me receipts?
She never wrote me receipts.
Everyone in the salon has a receipt book, and they come to us and put the receipt in.
So really, has she
you're
ever given me a
self-employed. You're
receipt?
self-employed. Why would I give you a receipt?
If you're going to speak to Miss Washington, you want me to throw you out?
No, I'm sorry.
You want me to throw you out?
No, I do not.
Do you have receipts from June 5th to June 26th?
The last, when I stopped writing checks, that's the last receipts that I have.
Why did you stop writing checks?
The copies of my bank
You're going to be gone. This is your last chance. Last chance. And you know, when I say last chance, it is your last chance. You got it?
Yes.
I'm serious with you. We don't talk out. This is a court. This is not a tea dance.
Yes, Your Honor.
You said that before.
I had went on commission. That's why when she
Just a second, Ms. Showen. In May, were you on commission or booth rent?
In May, I was on booth rent.
And at the end of April, were you on booth rent?
In April, I was on booth rent.
So what you're telling me is Miss Washington, who was in business to make money, said to you, well, you can't pay me booth rent, which is what I want, which is $75, but I'm going to allow you, because your clientele is not so good, I'm going to allow you to go on commission, which means I'm going to make less money for the entire month of June. She's going to make less money. Is that right? Is that what you want me to believe? I just want to know, is that what you want me to believe?
Yes, Your Honor, that's the truth.
And then in the entire month of June, how much money did you give her?
It's all written down inside my book on the money I made.
Can I speak, Your Honor?
Yes.
Every single time that she made money, she only every single time said, this is what I can give you. This is what I can give you.
Just a second. Miss Washington, I believe you.
Every single time.
I have copies of checks when I paid her.
Do you have the
rent.
book?
Shut!
We started having a conflict after my income
Listen to me.
dropped.
I do not believe you that this lady who is in business to make money would say to you, you don't have to pay that $75 a week because you don't have a good enough business to pay $75 a week.
Well,
pay less than $75 a week. So, all right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $300.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She started off irresponsible, was not paying rent from the get-go.
I was paying my $75 every single week.
She would not do anything that we asked her, and she stood clients up.
When we got into the salon, it was so loud and noisy.
She had several different children that would come to the salon.
They played their music over. You couldn't even talk to each other.
People are coming to work to get their nails done and not to babysit.
These are clients that had been with me for 6 months prior to moving to her salon.
She was not responsible at all.
They just said it was just too loud and too busy in there.
She wouldn't dress right.
How am I going to pay her what I want when she's a business owner?
She has no business ethics. She don't have any morals. She don't pay her bills on time, and that's probably why she have a minimum wage job right now.
She just lied. She just went in there and lied.
I'm a business owner, and I have to love everybody until they mess up.
She's going to have to live with herself.
I still care about her. I just can't work with her.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Andrews versus Amadon Danforth. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Kathleen Andrews is suing her son's ex-girlfriend, 15-year-old student Leanna Danforth, and her mother, Amber Amadon, for the cost of a cell phone. Kathleen claims Leanna smashed the phone when she caught her son cheating.
No. How old are you?
17.
17. Girlfriend? Former girlfriend?
Yes.
Your name?
Leanna.
Your name?
Josh.
All right, Miss Andrews, you bought Josh a phone.
Yes.
Leanna got angry with him because she found out, or she believes she found out, that he wasn't faithful in their relationship, and somehow the phone got broken, right?
Yes.
How'd you break the phone?
I smashed it.
And you want her to pay for the phone?
Yes.
And you say you don't have to pay for the phone because that's what he gets for cheating?
Yes.
You're suing on behalf of your son because he's 17. You're 17?
15.
15. Don't you all have better things to do with your time? How much was this telephone?
$108.
Josh, you go to high school?
Yes.
What time do you go to high school, Josh?
9 a.m. to 2:25 p.m.
And what do you do at 2:25?
I go home.
What do you do when you get home?
Whatever I'm doing that day.
Like? Do you ever have a job?
Yeah, I go to work.
It's what we're talking about, Josh. Where do you go to work?
I work at Wendy's.
How many hours a week?
About 20.
Do you have a new cell phone?
No.
Why not?
I didn't buy one yet.
But you're going to.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
With the money that you get from your job, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Then your mother's not out any money. Look, Miss Andrews, your son is 17 years old. You want Miss Amadon to be responsible for her 15-year-old daughter's hissy fit, right?
Yes.
She had a hissy fit because she got a text message on the phone from a girl, right?
Right.
Now, Miss Amadon, she doesn't know anything about this hissy fit that her daughter pulled off, right?
Right.
I'm going to try to give you an analogy that probably is not a really very good analogy, but I'm going to run it up the flagpole anyway. Let's say, instead of having a hissy fit, Leanne, because the hissy fit is not right, took the phone, smashed it, right?
Yes.
Because maybe he didn't do the right thing socially, right? You have another friend that was text messaging you?
Yes.
Let's say one of these two teenagers gave the other a sexually transmitted disease. You think that either one of you mothers would be responsible for that?
No. No.
So why do you think Miss Amadon should be responsible for her daughter's hissy fit?
Because the phone was in my name. And I got it so I could keep track of him, so I could call and check where he was, where he was going, who he was with, type deal. And
he used it for other things too. I don't see Mrs. Amadon paying for her daughter's hissy fit. So you're going to buy yourself a new phone from your money at Wendy's, right?
Yes.
This is a very, very good lesson for you, Josh. Women don't like to be made a fool of. Sometimes they cut your clothes in half with you in them. Sometimes they take bleach and they pour it all over the interior of your car. That's what women do. Right?
yes.
Men don't react that way. They just go out there and get dirty. Women think about how they're going to get even. So I want you to think about that next time you have a girlfriend and decide that while you have an exclusive girlfriend, you decide to be a non-exclusive. That's not saying you have to be exclusive. I think you should play the field until you're 40 if you want to. But if you decide to be exclusive and you're messing around, I want you to expect the unexpected. Always happen. Got it?
Yes.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think that she was wrong in breaking the phone.
She smashed it. That's the bottom line.
Jealousy.
It don't matter why she smashed it. That was irrelevant to the whole entire thing. She smashed my phone. That's the bottom line.
He was talking to some other girl.
I wasn't being honest with her.
He's a player.
I'm not a player.
I'm not going to buy no more phones.
Case.
All parties in the matter of Garrett versus Cook. Step forward, please.
Hotel clerk Alan Garrett is suing the mother of his child, 27-year-old student Candace Cook, for the unpaid balance on a Toyota Supra. Candace says shortly after taking ownership, the engine died.
Mr. Garrett, the defendant is your former girlfriend and you have a child together. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Well, we weren't boyfriend and girlfriend, but we had a relationship, yes.
Well, you weren't her math teacher, right?
No, ma'am.
You weren't her plumber, right?
No, ma'am.
In a classic sense. You had a relationship. She was a girlfriend or something.
Yes, ma'am.
You had a child together.
Yes, ma'am.
You have custody of that child.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've always had custody of that child.
Yes, ma'am.
How old is the child?
A year and a half.
Boy or a girl?
Boy.
According to your complaint, you sold Miss Cook a car.
Correct.
Back in March. It was an old car, a car that you were not using. You sold her the car for $600.
Correct.
And she acknowledges that that's what happened, correct?
Yes, he gave me a car. Well, I mean, he didn't give it to me, but it was agreed to pay for it eventually.
You don't have any other children, do you?
I have an older child, yes.
Where is that child?
With my mother.
How old is that child?
9.
What do you do?
I'm a student at this time. I'm just now getting back to school and trying to get things together.
Where are you a student?
I'm at the Richland Community College.
Anyway, in March you sold her the car for how much, sir?
$600.
And according to what I read in your complaint, you did that because she wasn't visiting your son regularly and you really wanted her to be able to visit him.
Correct.
She had the car from March, is that right? Until September, is that right?
Yes, around that
I mean, are you together? Is there something wrong?
We're not. No, I'm just... He didn't said it wasn't for visit. It was because he said he wanted me to get a job and everything else.
Job would be nice here.
And so, you know,
job would be nice. What do you do? You have 2 children. Somebody else takes care of both of your children. You should be working. Who is this?
This is my roommate.
This is your roommate. Do you work?
Yes, I do.
Good. What kind of a job do you have?
I'm a computer technician.
What are your hours of work?
It's usually afternoon 1 to 10 p.m.
That's a full day. Do you have, I'm speaking, do you have children?
No, I do not.
So you support yourself?
Yes.
That's what people do when they have themselves to take care of, or in your roommate's case, when she has 2 children that are being supported by other people. They get a job. Now you can sit down. Perfect. Now, she ran the car and had the car in her possession until September, when, according to you, what happened to the car?
The engine blew, so I parked it. And then I called him and said, it's calling. I'm going to call a junkyard. And then once I get that money, I'll give you the money that I get from the junkyard. Well, I get a call from some guy I don't even know, never met, never anything, saying he's going to come get the car that Alan told him to come and get it. So that's where it turns up. I gave the car to somebody else. I don't even have
somebody
it.
to pick up the car?
A friend of mine that I had originally got the car from expressed interest in it. I told him the story about what had happened to it. For whatever reason, he was interested in the car. I said, well, if you want to talk to her about it, I'll give you her phone number, and I passed that information along so he could call her.
But he didn't give you the car. Did he give you any money for the car?
No, ma'am.
No. So you're at your $600, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all. Get a job.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I thought the judgment was fair, kind of what I expected.
Well, I don't agree with it because his friend has the car.
Went quick, there wasn't much to say.
I drove the car for a while, but he wasn't driving it anyway.
I'm pretty poor and I needed my money.
We'll probably still be friends.
I have no hard feelings at all.
Civil engineer David Fletcher is suing his ex-girlfriend, admissions clerk Brenda Manus, for illegally cashing a check and for attorney fees. Brenda says David was stalking her.
That's case number 345 on the calendar in the matter of Fletcher versus Manus. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Mr. Fletcher, you and the defendant used to date.
Yes, ma'am.
And there came a time when, according to your complaint, the defendant had accused you of being unfaithful.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said to her, it's not true. Here's a blank check. I'm signing it. You take this blank check and go hire yourself a private investigator and investigate me. Yep. So far, is that right?
Yes.
So she took the blank check. She filled it out, made it payable to herself for a couple of $1,000s.
Ma'am?
Who did you make it payable to?
He made it payable to me.
Oh.
He put my name in it.
Fine. You just filled in the amount.
Yes, ma'am.
Then things didn't go well. She accused you of stalking her. You were arrested, had to hire a lawyer. Those charges were subsequently dismissed. So you want the $2,000 back from the check and the attorney's fees.
That's correct.
Ms. Main says she cashed that check and wrote in $2,000 because she had to be taught a lesson not to be such an idiot. I mean, she doesn't say that, but that's about what she said. And that she had a grounds to file a complaint for stalking because you were in fact stalking her and making her very uncomfortable. Was he stalking you because he wanted his money back?
He never asked for the money back, Your Honor.
Never?
No.
When, for the first time, did he ask for the money back?
I received a
let's say,
a letter
let's start from the beginning. When did he give you the check?
It was end of April, first part of May.
Can I see a copy of the check, please?
Yes, ma'am. I put together this, and it's got an index for all things. Or do you just want that?
Listen to me. I'm not as young as I used to be. Okay. Just give me a copy of the check.
There's some other stuff stapled to it.
April 6th. But that's the date on the check. And it was cashed?
In the upper right-hand corner there, it's the 8th of April, is when it actually transpired through the bank.
2 days later. Didn't waste any time.
No.
What'd you do with all the money?
I paid a bill of my daughter's. And that's about it.
Okay, then I have here some emails. You were hell-bent to give me these things anyway. This one is dated Thursday, April 8th, 9:14 a.m. From you. No, David, I'm not going to hire a PI with your money, but I'm going to hold on to your money for a couple of months so you can sweat a little. That should be long enough to teach you a lesson on giving someone a blank check. By the way, I cashed it for $2,000, and you did have money in the account. You're lucky I didn't cash it for $10,000 like someone suggested. You lied to me about how much money was in your account, so you must not trust me. I hate liars, and once I'm lied to, I have a hard time believing anything that a person says to me in the future. How much after that did you break up with him?
We were broke up.
2 days later after he gave you the check?
Prior to the check.
You're not a nice person.
Maybe not.
Well, you're right. Well, I'm glad somebody knows themselves. That's the first step to self-healing. I mean, you took advantage of him.
I don't feel that I did, Your Honor.
You don't feel as if you took advantage of him. He gave you this check for what reason? He gave you the check and said, I haven't been doing the wrong thing. I have been doing the right thing. Here, take this. You should have taken it, ripped it in 10 pieces and say, listen, David, it's over. I'm not interested in you. Instead, you took the check. You cashed the check. You went and bought yourself something. You paid a bill for your daughter. And then, after you told me, I'm going to hold on to the money for a couple of months. That's what you said to him. So far, you owe him $2,000.
Excuse me?
So far, you owe him $2,000 because you said you were going to give it back to him. That's what you said in the email. That's your email. That's what you said. You said, I'm going to me. I don't care what he wrote to you. You told him that I'm going to hold on to it long enough to teach you a lesson. Did you learn your lesson?
Yes, ma'am, unfortunately.
Now, can I see when you filed stalking charges against him? Did you continue to send her letters and emails and flowers?
Well, what I'd like to do is present my evidence on this, if I could. While we were dating, I did.
Listen to me.
When we were
Listen to me. Watch me. After she cashed this check, did you send her flowers?
The last flowers I sent her was the first or second week of April. After the check, we were broke up for like a week. We got back together, and I have emails that she has communicated with me.
When you say you got back together, did you take her out for dinner?
We went out to dinner, and I have my business partner here. They came over to Gold Beach, and she'd actually went out to dinner with us.
After April 8th?
After, yes.
Okay. Now, when did you tell him that you didn't want him calling you anymore?
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
It was May 19th, and I have the last email correspondence that I actually had with her.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am. This was the last correspondence. That's when she told me that she had a boyfriend and I was cramping her style, evidently.
I don't take
May
cramping
19th.
style.
And from that point on, I had no more contact with her other than after I got served with a stalking order, which I got served. That was May 19th. When I had a hospital appointment, I had to have some surgery done at the hospital there. She works there, and bumped into me. And after I got done with my surgery and I got home, the next thing I know, I'm getting served with a stalking order. And that was, I hadn't saw her for almost a month.
How come you never told the police that you ripped him off for $2,000? I don't see that anywhere here.
Your Honor, I didn't rip him off for
Yes, you
$2,000. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, you did.
Okay.
Oh, you did.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. David Fletcher claims ex-girlfriend Brenda Manus owes for illegally cashing a check and for falsely accusing him of stalking.
Now, he didn't make you a gift. He didn't make you a loan. It was clear that he was trying to be a boyfriend and gave you this check. And initially, put your hand down. Initially, what you said was, 2 days after you cashed the check was, I'm just going to hold on to it for a couple of months to teach you a lesson not to be a fool and give somebody a blank check. Somewhere along the line, you changed your mind after you spent the money. So my question to you is, how come you didn't tell the police when you filed these charges against him, not for threatening you in any way, just he sent you emails, he sent you flowers, then he called you. How come you didn't say anywhere in any of these statements that I took $2,000 from his bank account? You didn't think that was relevant?
Nope.
No. And how come you didn't, if you thought that he was stalking you, how come you didn't say to yourself, maybe if I give him back the $2,000 that I took from him and made a fool out of him, maybe he would leave me alone and wouldn't bother me. And here's the $2,000 because he says to you in an email, why don't you just give me back my $2,000? I'll leave a deposit slip for you. What are you looking at me? Am I speaking a foreign language to you?
I would like to see that. I don't recall that.
Sure.
Thank you.
How much was your lawyer?
$712.
$712, did you say?
Yeah.
Refresh your recollection now? When he says, I'll leave you a deposit slip, please put my money back in my account. When did you do that, Miss Maines?
When did I put the money back in his account?
Yeah.
I did not.
And if somebody was stalking me, if someone was following me around, if someone was coming to my place of business, I would say, gee, I want to remove any irritant that might exist with that person because they feel like a fool. Not a nice person. You were right at the beginning. First statement was right. You are not. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,712. You don't abuse the courts by filing stalking petitions when you've done the wrong thing. Goodbye.
Why is that excuse? You may step out.
He's mad because I filed the stalking order on him.
No, there was no stalking.
He emailed me constantly. I blocked his email.
The only part of the hateful part was the part that she told me when she had a boyfriend.
Called 2 and 3 times a week.
I emailed her back and I told her what I thought of her leading me on like that.
He would not leave me alone.
She basically wrote the check for more than she was supposed to.
He gave it to me.
It was supposed to be paid back. It wasn't paid back.
It was never asked to be returned.
There'll be no more blank checks.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Denton versus Clevenger, step forward, please.
Computer analyst Julia Denton is suing her sister-in-law, student Patricia Clevenger, for the cost of a '96 Toyota RAV4. Julia says Patricia's husband totaled the vehicle.
Mrs. Denton, is this your brother?
Yes.
And this your sister-in-law?
Yes.
According to your complaint, several years ago, your husband passed away.
Yes.
You say it was in 2001.
That's correct.
When he passed away, one of the things he had was an automobile that was in his name. You had a car, and you agreed to, at that time, let your brother and your sister-in-law use that car.
Correct.
Until the estate was settled, and with the understanding that when it was settled, you would sell them the car. Was that your agreement?
Well, we actually didn't make that agreement. When I loaned them the car to begin with, we didn't make that agreement. It took a long time for the estate to be settled. It wasn't settled until the end of May of 2004. As it got closer to that date, then we started talking about selling them the car. That was my intention, to either sell it to another party or sell it to them if they were still interested in buying it.
Once the estate was settled?
Right, because I was not able to sell any of the assets. He did not have a will, and I was the administrator of his estate. Right.
Okay. Now, you gave them the car to use from 2002, according to your complaint, until 2004. Now, my question to you is, in whose name was the car titled in 2004?
The title was in my late husband's name until after the accident.
Okay. Now, according to you, you insured the car up until May or June of 2004.
Correct.
And then sometime in May or June, you found out that you had started to insure the car.
I did insure the car. After,
when?
In May, after her mother told me that she was no longer carrying insurance on the car.
Okay, so you started to carry insurance on the car, even though you had no insurable interest in the car.
At that point, we felt like the car had been given to us. We had already tried to return the car several times. She said she had no use for the car.
Excuse me, Your Honor, that's a lie.
I'll get there. And at some point, about a month or so later, your husband had an accident with the car and it was totaled.
Yes.
And you got a check for how much?
$4,687.
Which you feel rightfully belongs to you.
Correct.
And you feel none of that belongs to her because it was your insurance policy.
Correct.
What do you think?
She gave us the car.
Stand up.
She gave us the car 3 years ago. We offered to give it back to her several times. She didn't want the car back. She had 2 cars and 1 driver.
Yes.
She had a Corvette.
Well, what did you say? I'm just curious. What did you say when you offered to give her the car back?
I said, here's the RAV back. You can have it back. She said, no, keep it. Drive it. That's exactly her words. Keep it.
Now, why did you bring it over there?
Well, actually, I brought it over there to make sure that I wasn't encroaching upon her, to make sure that it was a gift, and if she wanted it back, she could have it back.
So you brought it back to her to see if you were encroaching?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Denton. When did you have the first conversation with regard to the estate settling and some papers that would necessarily have to be exchanged?
I found out that they had started to insure the car on June 17th. Up until that time, I carried full coverage insurance on the car.
Do you have any proof of
that? Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Put your hand down. Now, this car was a 1996 Toyota?
Yes.
It was insured until the 17th of June, 2004. Not May. It's insured until 17 June 2004.
Okay.
Full coverage. So you are mistaken that the car was not insured after May. So whoever gave you the information was mistaken.
That would be their mother.
Well, I don't know who it was, but certainly you didn't verify that with her, right?
No, I did not.
Right.
What had happened was, Your Honor, because I had been paying the insurance the whole time, I would give the little cards to my mother, because she lives in the same town they do, to go and give to them, and I had given her the wrong card. And she looked at the date and told them that there must not be insurance on the car because it's expired. They got insurance without my knowledge.
I don't see how they could get insurance. They had no insurable interest in the car.
It was a gift.
You had no insurable interest in the car. That's a matter of law. The car is not in your name. It would be like you deciding that you like the look of Bird's car and saying, I'm going to take out insurance on his car just in case he has an accident. And if he has an accident, I can collect on his car. You have to have an insurable interest in the car. The car was not in your name. And it's not something that is worth family feuding over. Sir, you have to use common sense. If she gave you the car, then the common sense would be, I cannot transfer the title to you in this car until the estate is settled, and that may take several years. But I'm giving you the car. But while I may give you the car, I'm not going to give you the car and pay for your insurance too, because that would be stupid. Put your hand down, troublemaker. Do you understand, sir? I'm ignoring your wife because she is not related to this lady, and you are.
Yes, ma'am.
So she doesn't care if she makes trouble, this one, but you should care if she makes trouble. If your sister was giving you the car as a gift, I would say to my brother, David, I want you to have this car. We can't do the paperwork on it right now. All you have to do is you take care of the maintenance, you take care of the insurance, you take care of all the expenses on the car, and at the appropriate time, I'll just transfer the title over to you. I would not say to him, I'm going to pay for all the expenses, including the insurance on the car.
She didn't pay for all the expenses.
The insurance! No, she's supposed to pay the expenses. I mean, something wrong with you? You look like a perfectly healthy man. Do you work? Are you employed?
Yes, I am.
Then why should she pay for the expenses? You're driving. Listen to me. Listen what you did with your wife. You had the full use of a car for 2.5 years. You had it fixed when it needed to be fixed. You put gas and oil in the car. You did whatever you had to do. Somebody else paid for the insurance. Then, at the 11th hour, because your wife got some misinformation, you insured the car. You had not paid for the car. And you came into a windfall of almost $5,000 for something that wasn't yours. Listen to me, sir. Under your theory, if you had had the car in April, which you did, of 2004, and if you had had an accident and she was paying for the insurance at the time, who would have gotten the insurance money? I'm not asking. Put your hand down.
She obviously would have gotten it.
Right. She would have gotten the money. Would you have sued her?
Her insurance would also pay for
Ma'am, I wouldn't sue a family member.
Right, because you would have done the right thing. And the right thing is, you don't come away with a windfall of almost $5,000, which is outrageous. Outrageous.
We did have medical expenses after the wreck.
Whose fault is that? Hers?
No, but her insurance would have paid it if she was carrying insurance.
Whose fault is that? Hers? If you had medical insurance, sir, nobody would have had to pay medical insurance for you. You would have had taken care of it with your medical coverage. And if you're a working person, I assume your wife is working. She looks like she's an able-bodied person. You should have medical insurance.
She's a full-time student.
She's too old to be a full-time student if she has other responsibilities.
I am a full-time student.
Okay. You owe $4,687. Judgment for the plaintiff. No good deed goes unpunished, madam.
Thank you very much.
Why does that excuse me? Step out.
The last 4 months have been a strain, not just financially, but through the family and everything else.
The closeness of my family and the warmth and feeling of a brother and sister relationship.
She's being vindictive.
It was my car. I paid everything on it. They were borrowing the car.
She's being vindictive about a car she gave us.
It doesn't have anything to do with me being vindictive or anything else. I just wanted what was mine to be mine.
I think this whole thing was ridiculous.
The whole thing is upsetting to me.
If she would have just been a little bit more compromising, we would have never been here.
There's nothing else I could do. I'd already loaned them $3,500.
It's usually whatever makes Julie happy when she gets what she wants.
My sister did us a favor 3 years ago, and then 3 years later says, you owe me this.
My husband worked very hard for that vehicle and for everything that we had, and it's not theirs.
I don't have a sister anymore.
I agree with him. I don't have a brother anymore.
All parties in the matter of Amperan versus Lyle. Step forward, please.
Dental assistant Olivia Amperin is suing her former live-in boyfriend, business owner Alan Lyle, for the return of a barbecue pit and a chair and ottoman set. Olivia also claims Alan assaulted her 9-year-old son.
Miss Amperin, how long did you and the defendant live together?
15 months.
And he moved into your house?
Yes.
And you have children?
Yes, I do have 2.
How old are they?
12 and 9.
Was Mr. Lyle a reasonable companion with regard to the children?
No.
Okay. According to your complaint, there was an incident in September?
That's correct.
Involving one of your children. Was that the 12-year-old or the 9-year-old?
The 9-year-old.
Where you claim that Mr. Lyle hit him?
That's correct.
And you called the police and had him removed from the house. What day was that?
It was the 7th.
And then it is your claim that he came back into the house and he took some of your property. He took a barbecue pit, a chair, and a lamp. And you say that you purchased all these things, you paid for these things. Mr. Lyle says he only took what was his. And you also want some sort of damage because you say that he hit your 9-year-old son, slapped him.
That's correct.
So tell me what happened on September 7th.
It was in the evening. We had come home, myself and my 2 children. We drove up. The door to the front of the house was open. Everything was open. So we proceeded into the house, myself and my children, and I told them because of the situation that we were in, living with Alan Lyle, that just to go into your rooms, don't answer to him, just do what I ask you to do to avoid any confrontation. So they did so. As I proceeded into my bedroom, he was there with a duffel bag. I simply asked him a question as to where are you packing, where are you going? And he started telling me I have no right to ask him where he's going, whether he's coming for me to get the effing with my children, go over there. Go sleep with your children, go sleep with your gay son. He's a mama's boy. He'll never amount to anything, and he just kept on with those things. So I went ahead and went out from the room to my son's bedroom, and I comforted him because he did hear these things. Alan then went outside to the garage, and I didn't tell you this before, but when I came home that night, he was under the influence of alcohol and marijuana, and I went outside. We began to argue. He turned around and said for me to get the hell back in the house, go to sleep, and he proceeded again to tell me that if you don't get back into the house, I'm going to go and tell your son how you brought him into the world with your legs spread open.
Nasty things.
Yes, nasty things. And he went into my son's bedroom and turned around and got him up against the bedroom corner and smacked him across the face 3 times. I told him for him to stop or I was going to call the cops.
Why did he do that?
He was angry with just the whole situation of how we were living.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Torrance says ex-boyfriend Alan Lyle owes for the return of a barbecue pit and a chair and ottoman set.
So you called the police?
Right, and I do want to say that when he was outside, I was very, very angry, and I know as a mother I shouldn't have told my son to curse at him, but my son did curse at him, and he didn't want to, and so I believe either that made him angry, also with everything else, so he came into the house.
There had to be a reason, otherwise there would not be logic to it if he just walked inside and slapped him in the face. So he slapped him in the face because he cursed at you.
Right.
Is that what happened? Is that what happened?
Yes.
Now, tell me about the property. Let's start with the chair and the ottoman.
Right, he was given 1 day to come back.
Who purchased the chair and the ottoman?
I did, and I have receipts.
May I see it, please? I'll hear you.
We both went together to Wix and purchased it. Her grandmother co-signed for her to get a Wix card. She picked out the couches. We went throughout the whole store. I sat in every chair. I'm a big guy. I took a picture of the chair. I
just want to know who paid for it.
It was purchased on her credit card, but after the fact that we went home, we moved into our place on May 1st. So we purchased our furniture in May.
Right.
Throughout the months, I had given her $100, $200 here and there, just for the chair. Everything else was on her account, the couches and stuff, because it was agreed that if I was to ever leave, that I would be taking the chair and the lamp.
How did you deal with your finances when you lived together?
She was working, I was working.
How did you take care of the rent?
She paid half, I paid half. I gave her half of the money, and then she would write the check for it in full because she had the checking account.
How much did you give her?
I gave her $750 in rent, and then the agreement was to pay half of the utilities, but I ended up paying all of them.
Did he give you $750 for rent?
Yes, he did.
Who paid for the food?
Both of us.
Is that right?
No, Your Honor. He wasn't working. When we moved into this house together, he was not working. I put down the down payment, and I put the first and last month.
When you moved into this apartment, sir, where were you working?
When we first moved in, I was doing freelance jobs, getting hired here and there to do subcontracting work.
How many months was it before you got a full-time job?
3.5 months, middle of September.
I say November.
So May, June, July, August, so for 5 months you weren't working. Is that what you're telling me?
4.5 months, yes.
Did you ever make up your half of the rent for those 4.5 months?
Not fully.
Is not an answer.
No, not fully the $750, no.
Why not?
Well, because on top of that, I was taking care of her 2 kids, making sure they were maintained in school, doing their schoolwork. So childcare, basically.
Mr. Lyle, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. You give her back the ottoman and the chair. She bought it. She paid for it in May of 2003. You sitting in it doesn't make it yours, sir. Now, let's get to the barbecue. Who purchased the barbecue?
I did.
When?
In June. I was going to have a 4th of July barbecue. We didn't have a barbecue pit. I went out to Home Depot.
Let me see it.
Down at the bottom.
June 27th. Yes, sir. I'm hearing about the barbecue pit. Go.
She said that she purchased, that she went there by herself and bought it. That's incorrect.
No, she didn't say she went there by herself, sir.
Yes, she did.
It doesn't make any difference whether she went there with the whole Coxie army, sir, or whether she went there with Ringling Brothers.
That was a Father's Day gift to me.
You're not a father.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you're an idiot. Listen, I can't deal. The truth of the matter is, I really can't deal with it. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something else.
I'm a father.
I want to tell you something else, sir. I don't even trust you to return these items to her in good condition, because I think that you are a less than honorable human being. That's my sense of you, and I've only met you for a relatively short time. Exactly. But those people who know me know that I'm a pretty good judge of character. You took these things that didn't belong to you. You sat in the chair, doesn't make it your chair. Because you grilled a hamburger, doesn't make it your barbecue. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,400. That's all. Out.
Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She has 2 kids with separate different fathers, and they couldn't stand her either.
I mean, that's how he is, obnoxious.
She's violent. She has a temper. She likes to put her hands on men.
He's the one who has the police report on him stating that he hit my son, so he's the violent one.
I'm done and over.